I'm so excited to introduce Destination Development Guru, President and CEO of Destination Development Association, Roger Brooks, to present to us today, Shift Happens, the fastest road to recovery.
Go shift happens, the fastest road to recovery. And just so you know, the post-pandemic normal is starting to take place. We're not there yet, but after more than a year, we're finally seeing light at the end of the tunnel. And that is good news, because humans are among the most social of all living beings on Earth. And so we will get back to attend trade shows, conferences, reunions, and groups like that, probably later in the second half of 2021. We will again attend concerts and plays and other cultural events, festivals, you name it. We will get back to movie theaters and performing arts venues. We will get back on airplanes, and we will get back on buses and trains and cruise ships. And we will get back to group tours. You can see how much this has affected every piece of our lives. We will get back to watching sports, whether it's local sports or major league. And perhaps best of all, we will finally get back into our downtowns. And that is going to change everything. And we're just a couple of months away for that. And so right now, this time of year is the perfect time to refocus your efforts, to reimagine, to reinvest in your businesses and in your communities. And I got to tell you that I have worked in every province and every U.S. state and abroad. And I think the best example I've ever run across is the Business to Bruce, the Spruce the Bruce program, and Explore the Bruce program. It really is a model for everybody. And you are so lucky in Bruce County to have them. And Tori already talked to you about that mandate and how they do that. And as a matter of fact, Bruce County Council invested $1.7 million to support the Bruce Business Sustainability Fund. So they're there for you. And this is going to get you really going. And I love being able to do these things, even though I'm not there in person. And so always keep looking at the Business to Bruce website and see what's coming up. So here's how this is going to work. We know we're on the light. We're seeing light at the end of the tunnel. But I'm going to break this into 3 chapters for you. The first one is the 7 trends that are reshaping the way we shop, the way we live, the way we work, the way we play. And these happened before the pandemic. The pandemic just put them on steroids. So I'm going to cover that. Then in chapter 2, I will talk about 10 easy things you can do today to pull customers in your door. And this is meant primarily for your local shops and eateries, but for your elected officials, your community champions, this is great for you too. Then the third chapter will be 10 low-cost or no-cost marketing must-dos you can implement today to increase your sales tomorrow. So we're going to dig right into this, and I'm going to start for the next half hour or so talking about the 7 things that are changing, that are reshaping the total way that we shop, live, work, and play. And this is where the shift really, really happens. And one thing I've seen everywhere is people say, we want it to go back to the way it was. And that will never happen. We're never going back to the days of Mayberry or Leave It to Beaver. The way it used to be is no longer an option. And this started taking place far before we got hit with the COVID pandemic. So let's go through these. The first shift is really something that is changed everything from the way we've always operated, particularly in economic development. And this is that. For the first time in Canadian history, jobs are going where the talent is or where the talent wants to be. You know what this means? If the talent wants to be in Bruce County, then the jobs will follow. That never happened before. Before, it was always we built our economy on agriculture or manufacturing or transportation, one of those other forms. But now that has just shifted everything. Even Amazon, Google, Apple, all the tech companies are opening up offices where their workers want to be, not necessarily because they're on near a highway or near a waterway. So you know what that means is this is a new reality. For the first time in Canadian history, community development, which is quality of life, is leading both economic development and tourism development. So welcome to the age of placemaking. And I'll get into that. But one thing that was really important in all this research that was done is that all these organizations you see coming up on your screen asked people in their 20s, their 30s, 40s, mainly the millennials and even the younger set of the Gen Xers, what are their priorities? What do you want? And this, in order, is what they said. But there's one other thing I want to say before I preface those 10 things, is that these generations are having their kids in their late 30s and 40s. The boomer generation were having their kids in their early 20s. And so this has created more responsible parents, but usually both of them are working, but it has changed everything. As a matter of fact, fathers now spend twice as much time with their kids as boomers did. That's a good thing. So what are these people looking for? And number one on their list, remember this is in order, was safety, particularly for kids. They're looking for places with low crime rates, walkable streets, crosswalks, safe neighborhoods. And guess what you have in Bruce County? You've got it. That's the first thing. Number two is they want a good educational system and childcare. You know, this is a younger population. This is what they're thinking about. This includes things like libraries, a family-oriented medical and parks and fitness centers, those types of things. Number three on their list was an engaged community. They want a sense of belonging. And this is where your downtowns come into play. They want the diversity, friendliness. They want people working together, and they want to be part of the equation. You know, so the days of the good old boys network, as I call it, are virtually over. So that's what they're looking for. They're not looking for the bar scene. They're looking for a sense of community. And that is huge, particularly for you that are community leaders. Number four on their list is some cultural depth, whether it's visual arts, performing arts, some education, culinary arts, you name it. And guess where this takes place? In your downtowns. And you only need a block, and all of you have a great downtown. And then number five on their list is life after 6 o'clock. And this is a wake-up call for Bruce County. I've been there when you roll up your streets at 5 or even 6. But this is what they want, life after 6. And we're not talking the bar scene again or any of those types of things. They just want something to do after work and on weekends. So that's really important there. And number 6, they want top-notch recreation that surpasses other areas. And guess what, Bruce County? You own that. I mean, what you have there is outstanding, you know, and so this is great. And it's these kinds of amenities, and it's even your local sports fields, your sports facilities, your hockey rinks, all of those things. Number 7 on their list is health, particularly for their kids. And when we talk about health, we're talking about clean air and water, which you have, health care, particularly for children, health education, farmers markets, local produce and goods, family services, all of those things. Number 8 on their list is transportation. Now, this doesn't mean you have to have, and you do have transportation, but this is just not just transit, but it's bike lanes in your downtowns, ride shares, school transportation, which you have, walkability. Number 9 on their list is affordability and quality. Now, they want it to be affordable, which you have, particularly over the Toronto area and when you get closer in. But they also want it to be quality, which you also have, whether these are starter homes or move-ups or nice neighborhoods or whether they're boomers downsizing. And here's the biggest surprise of all. We just went through the 9 things they want in order, and number 10 on their list is jobs. Since the beginning of Canada, jobs have been number 1. We go wherever the jobs are. Now with this group, they say if it's a place that has those first 9, if you provide at least some entrepreneurial opportunities or show us that there's a way for us to make a living, we will move there. We will bring the jobs with us, or the jobs will follow us. And so this is a major, major shift, and by the way, I put specific entrepreneurial opportunities, whatever it is, whether it's in the tourism industry or whether it's in high tech, whatever it is. If you have those first 9, the jobs are going to come, and you need to promote those first 9, which is really, really important. And Business of Bruce is doing exactly that. Now, one thing that's really interesting is that the focus of all elected officials, from your prime minister to your premier, to your mayors, to your school boards, to your county officials, their whole focus from the top all the way, and I wouldn't say all the way down, but because locally, your mayor is right there, your mayors, or your council, is their job is to improve the quality of life for their citizens as a country, as a province, as a community, as a county. And so your mission should be to become the most desirable place to live in Ontario, or Canada for that matter. And so telling the world how great you are is going to mean everything to you. So quality of life is driving economic and tourism development. Because of this, we're no longer in the age of smokestack chasing. We're in the age of economic gardening. So when these people start coming into our communities and they want to start a small business, we're there to help them through the process. So we take these small businesses and help them grow into big businesses, into lasting businesses. And that is the biggest shift of all. Now, shift number 2 is this, that downtowns are back and more important than ever. And a lot of you have seen me speak before, and I preach over and over and over about the importance of downtowns. But one thing that's really important on downtowns is to understand that it is the litmus test. The health of your downtown economically is the health of your community in the eyes of site selectors, in the eyes of investors and bankers, those people. Downtown is your litmus test. It may be fair, it may not be fair, but it is the truth. And your downtown is your best recruitment tool. Because if you have a vibrant downtown that has, remember, most of those things in the top 10 things that younger people want, a lot of those were focused on downtown. 3 of the top 5 were about downtown. And so if you do that, it's going to be your best recruitment tool by far. And so, and this is a message for everybody assisting you with your economic development efforts, is that the millennial generation is the most civically minded generation in Canadian history. I mean, you have to think about the boomers in the 60s that were down with the establishment and then somehow became the establishment. But now millennials, there are more mayors across Canada under 35 today in bigger cities like Edmonton, for instance, more mayors than any time in Canadian history. They want to be involved. So give the millennials, remember, they want a sense of belonging. Give them a seat at your table, young professionals groups. I mean, every mayor of every one of your communities or councils should be working with your millennials. And then finally, downtowns create a sense of place. It's your third place. The first place it's your nucleus. The first place is our home. It's where we live. It's where we have meals together, hopefully. And the second place is the place we work. And the third place is the place we go to hang out. And that's what downtowns are about. That's what community development is about. I mean, heck, Starbucks built an entire brand out of becoming a third place. And by the way, when you invest in your downtowns, you're reducing the tax burden that's placed on your residential community and developments. And so that's great. And any money you invest in downtown is an investment, not an expense. So that's really important. You know, there's a big number of changes that are going on, but I got to tell you that malls, traditional malls across North America, in the US and Canada, are coming to an end. You know, you can't outcompete Amazon. As a matter of fact, 50% of all households in Canada pay the $100+ a year to become Amazon Prime members. 50%. That's just Prime members. Because you know what's happening is we as consumers are moving away from the malls and department stores to Etsy style shops. Etsy style, you don't buy Etsy on Amazon. You have to see it, you have to touch it, you have to feel it. And so we're moving towards Etsy style shop. And that's what's great about our downtowns. They're about those little neat shops that make you worth a special trip and make you worth coming downtown for. As a matter of fact, what's really interesting is, you know what's coming back in downtowns and is very successful? Yep, the butcher, the baker, and the candlestick maker. These types of shops are thriving. And that is a first time and a great shift we should all be aware of. Now, the other shift is that it's the boomers moving downtown. People kept saying, oh, the millennials are moving downtown. Not so fast. As soon as they start having kids and stuff, they want to be in the suburbs. They want to have a yard and where the kids can ride bikes and play in the backyard. It's the empty nesters that are moving into downtowns where they don't want the care of the yards and those kinds of things. And so, you know, just jokingly, this is coming your way over the next couple of years. So get ready. Shift number 3 is that all across Canada, we are moving to the European standard. And when I talk about European standard, we're talking about a pedestrian-friendly experience. These cities and towns were built before the automobile, and now they're coming back to that. Downtowns cannot be about cars. They have to be about people. And if you go to the urban areas like Toronto, you know, Vancouver, Ottawa, you name it, you will find that only 70% of millennials even have a driver's license, and the average age of getting one is 24 years old. This is a first time in history. Heck, when I turned 16, that day we're down getting our driver's license. That just tells you how far we have come. But when we talk about the European standard, we're talking about pedestrian friendly, narrower streets, wider sidewalks, sidewalk cafes, entertainment, buskers, boutique shops, you know, and it's coming. Heck, we were able to work in Belfast, Ireland, which now has Apple and Google and Facebook there. It's become one of the youngest cities on earth. And even though Belfast was founded before the automobile, what are they doing? They're shutting down more streets to make them more pedestrian. Now, I'm not saying you shut down the highways in your towns or even shut down the streets, but just think about making it more about people, those wider sidewalks, narrower traffic lane, parking behind buildings rather than in front. And this has come to the United States, 3rd Street Promenade in Santa Monica, California, where they took 3 blocks and basically took the cars out of them. New York City shut down 60 miles. And you're saying, oh, these are bigger cities. We're rural. Ontario, but you know what's happening in small towns too. But in New York City, they shut down 60 miles of lanes of traffic. They took right turn lanes like here and made them into little corner plazas. They took out taxi lanes like you see in the middle here and made them bike and pedestrian lanes. And you know what? New York used to be one of the most congested cities in North America, and now it's not even in the top 4. Because it's about people. They'd rather go, you know, take the subway and then walk, you know, or they'll take taxis, but they're not driving as much. Then there's towns like Boulder, Colorado. This was taken early in the morning, so you don't see the people there, you know, but then they actually bring in the entertainment, the live music, the buskers. You know, it's all these sidewalk cafes. This is McKinney, Texas. And in this town of like 60,000 people, I think it is. So once again, it's bigger than you. But what they did is they narrowed down the streets. They created angle and parking, and they have sidewalks that are like 20 feet. So what is that? 6-7 meters wide. And I mean, go to Revelstoke, British Columbia. And there's, even in downtown Toronto, they're starting to do this. So this is a huge shift that's taking place across Canada. And so what do you do is say, we want to get our downtown so busy that we need to remove the traffic. So you don't just shut it down. But the other thing that's important about this is that your downtown should be your community living room. So if you think about the activities you would do at home, we might have friends over to watch a movie. Then let's watch movies downtown on a big screen. All of these types of things you can do. It is our gathering place. This is a little shop in Portland, Oregon, Bungalow Bar. Heck, this is in Sydney, Nova Scotia. Even they're getting into the act. And they closed down several parking spaces and put these big chess and checker sets there. Notice the bike racks in the background there. In Nelson, British Columbia, a town of like 6,000 people, they have entertainers and buskers out there pretty much 365 days a year, and they have winners like you. And, and this is happening everywhere. And even in the winter months, putting things out like these fire pits and just give people a place to hang out, your community living room, and then bringing out tables and chairs where we can get lunch at a restaurant and go eat. Obviously, this would be during the summer months, maybe closing down a side street, just filling it full of tables and chairs and inviting people to come into restaurants and take it to go. This started working with this whole social distancing thing, and it has caught on big time. And shift number 4 is this one, and here it comes again. Downtowns are about life after 6 o'clock. Downtown is where we go after working on weekends. That, you have to remember this. Downtowns, during the day, we're at work. And then you close your shops at 5 and 6. I've seen shops close at 4. And I've seen that in Bruce County. And I'm going, you're not going to get anybody except on Saturdays. You have to understand that these days, 72% of all parents both work. This is twice the number from the 1960s and even the early 70s. So convenience rules the day. And so this is that big shift. As a matter of fact, the average time Canadians are eating dinner has gone from 5:30 to 6 to now it's 6:37 to 7:30. If you go to Western Europe, you'll find out the average time for eating dinner is 9 o'clock at night. Us in North America, we're gradually moving that way. Yet I see some of your restaurants closing at 8 instead of 10. And so these are the kinds of things you have to keep in the back of your mind. And this has all been happening prior to COVID, but now it's really happening. And so here's another one. 70% of all consumer retail spending takes place after 6 o'clock p.m. 70%. Are you open? Here's the thing, if I visit Bruce County for a sports tournament, or I go to your beaches, or I go to one of your annual events, or I'm kayaking, I'm boating, I'm diving in Tobermory, I'm hiking, I'm visiting local, provincial, and national parks, which you have. We're doing all of this stuff during the day. And tourism is one of your biggest industries in Bruce County. So we do that during the day, and then we come back into your downtowns after 6. And guess what? Are you open? Look at this. People spend the night where there's things to do after 6 o'clock. Now, the big question I get asked is, where did you get that statistic? That is from the National Retail Federation. Who belongs to that? Canadian Tire, Walmart, CVS, most of your grocery stores, your big box retailers. Think about when they're open, then think about when your shops are open. And now you get it. And so what happens is if you shut down and roll up your sidewalks at 5 or 6 o'clock, guess what's going to happen is we're going to head over to Kitchener or London or some other big city where we have things that are open. And that's what you don't want, or even the Owen Sound. I mean, that's what you don't want to have happen. And so that's really important. But the way to start this is do it on Fridays and Saturdays for years, so people understand that at least you're open on the weekends after 6. So here we go. Shift number 5. This is, and I mentioned tourism being one of your primary industries. It is the front door to your non-tourism economic development. All of these people you see coming up on your screen are coming to Bruce County first as what? Visitors. Is this a place that they would want to live? Their client or customer would want to live. Their employees would want to live. And so when they come, they're checking out your beaches. So they're heading to Sauble Beach, or they're heading to Southampton or Port Elgin, any of your towns that have all the amazing sunsets. I mean, we will go to Lion's Head and Tobermory, and we go to these places and they're making a judgment call about you. And so tourism sells quality of life better than anything else. And that is really cool. And that one of the great things I love about tourism is people come, they spend money, and they go home. That's the purest form of economic development. But now we may come for the diving in Tobermory. We may come to look to kayak out in Huron Bay. You know, we're here to do all this amazing recreation that you have. And then when they're done, the number one activity of visitors, not the reason they come, but the number one activity once they arrive is shopping, dining, and entertainment in a pedestrian-friendly, intimate setting. That's the number one activity. And guess what? That's where 80% of the non-lodging spending takes place. 80%. This is why Disney put Downtown Disney outside each of its parks to get that 80%. And so when we talk about downtowns, another thing that's really important is if you don't hang out in your downtown, neither will visitors. They go where you go. So if you want a good tourism industry, you need to get your locals to hang out in your downtown, and visitors go where you go. And here's another one for you. Women account for 80% of all consumer spending. Usually this is where I hear murmuring when I'm speaking in front of live audiences. And usually there's a guy in the audience that pipes up and says, that's all. And by the way, this one is not a shift, but that is a true fact. Women also account for 70% of where we go on vacation or this weekend, and 70% of where we live. Now, here's where the guys usually pipe in and say, tell me something I didn't know. But look at this picture right here. What do you see? That was not staged. And so here you go. Think benches, always at the facade facing out. Every retail shop should be doing this. Think of every retail shop as like a front porch in your home. Why do we put the chairs out there? It makes our home feel welcoming. The same applies to local businesses. Now, for women, their priorities is they want to feel safe. They want it well lit. It doesn't have to be in your face bright, but they want it full of life. They want downtowns that have people in them. And if you do that, you're going to win big. And shift number 6, RVing is at an all-time high and increasing at a record pace. 500,000 RVs are being sold in the US and Canada. I don't have it separated every single year. And because of COVID, now this has been happening for 10 years. It's just that COVID put it on steroids. And we are now entering the age of work from anywhere era. You know, over this last year, I think Tori made a comment that she's hardly been in the office for like a year, you know, and we're people are starting to learn how to work from home or work from anywhere where you have broadband internet. So if there was ever a major thing that you need all throughout Bruce County, it would be broadband. You know, fiber would be fantastic. And I know you're working on, a lot of you already have it. But we're now in that. As a matter of fact, it's brought up a whole new industry or a whole new group of people called digital nomads. In fact, even this year, we're going to be on the road for 6 months, yes, in an RV, working in North Carolina, working in Pennsylvania, working in Ontario and Huron County if we can get over the border. This is a huge opportunity for every community to have like WeWork style spaces where you come in and rent a table. Even when I do webinars on the road, I always go to whatever community and I look for a place that has fiber or really fast broadband. And then I rent that space from them and I can do webinars, I can do Zoom meetings, all of these types of things. And so this is sweeping Canada. And there, as a matter of fact, in the US, and I don't know in Canada, in US, there are more than 2 million people living full-time and working full-time in their RVs. And one thing that's really important, the average age of a person buying an RV is 43. This is not just retirees going and buying trailers and RVs, and 1 million of them are working on the road. And all they need is a strong cell signal. And so what they do is they look for places where they can work remotely. And then they're saying, as long as they have a good cell signal or a place I can go where I need broadband, they're going to move to you because you have the recreation that supports them. And this has brought up another new trend. As a matter of fact, in May, I'm going to do a whole workshop on this. Zoom towns. Zoom towns are boom towns. And I'm telling you, people are fleeing places like New York and even Toronto, and they're looking for the rural areas. They're saying, I want to get out. I want to get away. I want to get to where I have the recreation. And believe it or not, they thought that millennials and Gen Xers would never move to the rural areas, but they are, and they're loving it. All they need are the amenities and the support. And so this whole boom Zoom towns will ease city housing costs because they're moving, over the last year, there's so many people working from home, but then their recreation was what they got every single day around their house. So now they're moving to recreational paradises like what Bruce County has to offer. Matter of fact, publications, even Travel and Leisure magazine, tourism is saying these jobs are totally remote and they're accepting applications. Here's a few of them: wellness coaches, executive assistants, head of user journey, Lottery Now. I mean, they've got, and this is just a few of them. I mean, this is big. And it's something you should be aware of. So having RV parks, there's a business opportunity for somebody. RV parks and are growing like crazy. And there's not enough of them. Shift number 7, we're getting there. Welcome to the global economy. And this is an important one as well. As a matter of fact, in Ontario, there are nearly 2,000 cities, towns, villages, townships, counties, you name it, almost 2,000. I know some of them are way, way out west in Kenora and, up in Algonquin and all that. But still, the big majority of them is in that Toronto area where 20% of Canada's population lives. And so the big question with this is, how do you stand out from the crowd? And that is the era of the brand. I mean, I call these the economic development dudes. We should have Tory in there with a pitchfork. But competition has never been more fierce. All those 2,000 towns want economic development. Yet we have a major problem that happens. In most towns, we have all these different organizations, and then we could add arts councils and historical societies and local foundations. And you notice something there? Everybody's working in their silo. This is what I love about Business to Bruce, Spruce the Bruce, and Visit the Bruce. I love the fact that you have one organization that really envelopes everybody so that you get out of this mentality. This is what happened in most communities. This was the Economic Development Express, not really clipping along like it should. But when you get tourism, downtowns, chambers of commerce, economic development working together, and by the way, all of these things you see on your screen, they represent the private sector. Tourism is private sector. Your best attractions are probably private sector outside of your national and provincial parks. But downtowns, chambers, this is private sector. and they need to be joined at the hip. And you're far more powerful as one loud voice as opposed to a whole bunch of separate little voices, even in your own community. And I'm so grateful that you have like Explore the Bruce, which I think is an outstanding, one of the very best across Canada. So what's really great is that once you get everybody working together in your own community and then working with the county, you will go from this to this. So this is the era of getting people out of their silos and working together, even locally. And so there is nothing you can invest in besides schools and besides internet that will have a faster, better return on investment than your downtowns. And I love this, what Wyerton did with their downtown. And their downtown is really a great downtown. And so there are the 7 fastest growing trends. Now you're probably saying, what are we going to do with all of this? How are we supposed to do this? And you've got an idea that downtowns are important. You know that quality of life is now leading economic development. So let's go to chapter 2 in this. And by the way, if you have questions, write them down, key them in on Zoom. And at the end, I'm going to give you half an hour or as much time as it takes to answer all your questions. And I don't mind the hard questions. So let's go to chapter 2, 10 easy things you can do to increase your sales. Before I even start this, I want to give you a little heads up, is that there is a huge, huge, huge pent-up demand for travel. As a matter of fact, in the last 3 weeks, and we're talking March, in March, Vrbo and Airbnb have had more sales than they in any period in their history. As a matter of fact, in the US, over the last 15 days, more than 1 million people have been flying every single day. People are not even waiting for vaccines. They are so excited. They want to get out there. And the number one reason people are going to travel over the next year is to visit friends and family. So just think of all the people that live in Bruce County in your town. Their parents, grandparents are going to come and visit you. They're coming. There's a huge pent-up demand. People want to get back outside. They want to get on kayaks. They want to come to do your hikes in your provincial national parks. They want to come back and do that. And this is all about you getting ready, because it's just a couple of months away. As you start to loosen your restrictions, these people are going to flood into your towns, and you better be ready. Sable Beach this summer. Lion's Head, all of these places, Tobermory, and I could keep going on. And so here's what you can do. Number 1 are blade signs. And if you've seen me before, you've heard me talk about blade signs, but this is an inexpensive thing you can do. Blade signs are those that are perpendicular when we're walking down your sidewalks or driving down your streets. These here you see are in Canmore, a town of about 12,000 people in Alberta. But I go and I could have shown pictures from Bruce County, but it's been a couple of years since I've been there. So I'm going to not make examples of you. But when I go into a lot of your towns, I will look down the sidewalk like you see in this picture. Can you tell me what's in any of those shops? What's my incentive to walk down there? I see a couple of umbrellas down there. I have no blade signs. I don't know what's in there. Now, if I go up in the far right, I can see El Bajo Mexican Grill and Bar, but I only see that if I'm out there where the parked cars are or across the street. So this happens everywhere. And I remember it happening in Bruce County, and I think it's still happening. And I'm even going to show you a couple of pictures. But, can you tell me what's down there? Give me incentive to walk down your streets. Remember, they're coming, and they're basically looking for things to do after 6. So also remember that. Maybe this is the summer in your peak season that your shops do stay open later, particularly on those weekends. But in all these photos I showed you, where are the blade signs? And that's what you need to do. And you don't need to make them all up and down and all over the place. Look at this. This is a small town of about 3,000 people. and never use more than 4 words on a blade sign, but notice they're consistent in height. Always promote the lure, not the name of your shop. Notice it says restaurant, train store, collectibles, chocolate. Instantly what it's about. So always put what it is that's going to pull us in the door more than the name of your shop. And here you go, no lower than like 7 feet, 2 meters, no higher than 2.7 meters, no wider than about a meter wide, which is 42 inches, and then use LED spotlights to shine on your signs. No more backlit signs, that's kind of 50s, 60s, early 70s. And so there's some general rules. And the best, most popular tourism destinations all use blade signs. But notice that they're not all cookie cutter, but at least they're consistent height. Here they are from a different angle. And so all these great towns, this is Carmel, California. Those are blade signs. Some of your towns where your downtown is kind of on the highway, like Port Elgin, you might need slightly larger signs, like this. And by the way, even in Lethbridge, Alberta, these are built to 100 mile an hour, not kilometers, mile an hour wind loads. And you can see that there's a blank one there because you can change out the guts of these as shops. They were just putting these up when I was in Lethbridge, but then they just can change those out, and those are withstand those winds. And so having blade signs is really, really important, like Boryekin, restaurant there in Chard, and I took that in Western New York, not that far from you. And so there you go. Once again, promote what you're selling, the lure. Because what would you guess this is? Go ahead, blurt it out. I can't hear you anyway, but what would you guess that is? Well, they went out of business because they sold T-shirts and souvenirs. We didn't know that. And so people are going to judge you by your signs, whether they're going to come in your shops. And remember, customers are coming. Look at this one, the wood merchant. Can you even read what it says below that? And you're sitting right in front of a screen with an enlarged photo. And I thought, man, you should put quality handmade gifts and furniture is the big letters and just put the wood merchant on your doors and windows like they did here. And avoid script fonts in your signage if you can. They're hard to read from a distance. And avoid logos. You have half a second for somebody to know what you're about. Half a second. They're going to glance. And if they see the wood merchant, they still don't know what you're about. If they say quality handmade gifts and furniture, which they can read in about half a second, then they'll make a decision. Signs like this, I think, are awesome. And it should be more often. Love like this dippity doodah, even though it doesn't say ice cream, you know what it's about because the sign just shows an ice cream cone. But, this was done some time ago, but they talked about the cost of reaching people per 1,000 on-site signs, 6 cents per 1,000. Look at this, outdoor billboards, 56 cents for every 1,000 you reach. Newspaper advertising, which pretty much is gone now. Radio advertising. I mean, if you think about readership, on-site signs compared to other forms of meeting, this is the importance of blade signs. You've got a couple months before people start coming, before you hit your peak season. Now is the time to do blade signs. Tori sent me this one, which I think is excellent. They've got the facade sign and the blade sign. It's beautiful. It's great. So that's number one. Number two, sandwich boards. I'm not a huge fan of sandwich boards, particularly if you have narrower sidewalks, but I think that there is a place for them. I mean, I took this in a small town where the sidewalks are wide enough. You can see Johnny B's Custom Barbecue, and then they do have the sandwich board there for takeout. And they did this during COVID so people would know that they were there. But sometimes sandwich boards like this can be great. Warm up with hot coffee. And sandwich boards are, by the way, really meant for pedestrians walking down your sidewalk, because a lot of times if you have cars parked along the street, they won't see your sandwich boards. But just really simple, really forward. It's just a way to let us know that you are back open and in business. So avoid the script fonts just for easier reading. Promote the lure once again. And then let customers know that you're open, because after COVID, there's millions of small businesses in the US and Canada have gone away permanently, which is really, really sad. So we don't know who's open and who's not. I like this sign. It's decorative. It looks nice. And I think that's important. And no more than 8 words on a sandwich board, unless you're promoting today's special in a restaurant or something like that. And then once again, I'm going to keep saying this, always promote the Lord. The name of the shop isn't Antiques, but that's what is going to pull you in the door if you're interested in antiques. And so I love these. These are key to your first impression. So if you saw this walking down a sidewalk, it looks like it's a pretty nice shop, right? I didn't even show you the shop. But if I show you this one for a spa, what's your first impression? To me, not very good. It says Deluxe Spa. Really? It doesn't look like it. It looks tacky. It looks second class, and spas should never look second class. I'm a huge proponent of chalkboards. This is a chalkboard. I took this in Barrie, Flying Monkeys Craft Brewery. I just love the color on it. Now open Sundays 12 to 5, and tours at 1 to 4, so they are expanding their hours into the weekends. But I just think these are great. So do these whenever you can, because it'll keep people as they're walking on sidewalk. Today's special, or put a joke there, something funny that's going to capture them. I just think that these kinds of ideas are excellent, and now's the time for it. It's a great way to invite people into your shops and eateries. And sometimes sandwich boards can be really decorated. This is a seafood place. Now, I think there's too many words on it. If you're a pedestrian, you have to stand there for half a minute to be able to read it all. So if you allow sandwich boards, make sure you put them away when you're closed every day. Always keep them in front of your business, not down on the corner. There's probably bylaws about all of this. But I think they do have a place and serve a purpose, particularly as we start to open up our economies. The third one is window and facade signage. I think that every one of your restaurants should have an outdoor menu board. I love this one I took a long time ago in Banff. And they had a local high school student built this in a shop class, and it was like $300. But I think doing these are really, really important. And here you go once again, doing these kind of boards. Your restaurant should do this. Let us know. Be transparent about what you serve, what your specials are. Another thing I would do is I'd get rid of all closed signs. We don't know whether you're permanently closed or whether you're just closed for the day, the week. When I see a sign like this that says closed, please call again. When am I supposed to call again? I don't know when or if you're ever open. I'd love to see you as a community start doing signs like this that says we will be open, and then put the hours there so we can see it from a distance. Or if you have a seasonal business, let us know when your season is starting, because otherwise we're not going to come back. You could even do signs like this, and then down below the open, you could write with a grease pencil. You could laminate this and then write with a grease pencil the days and hours you're open. Or you can even put right now, and people will come in the door, because this is an invitation to come back. The word close is an invitation to go away. The other one I would do is get rid of all those no public restrooms or for customers only signs. When we see signs like this, it's like, okay, thanks a lot. You're not being very helpful. I got to give you a statistic that 70% of the people that will walk into a McDonald's will buy something. Half of those people, they're going into McDonald's to use the washroom. And then while they're there, half of them will say, let's buy something out of impulse. The other half will buy something. And you know what they call it? Guilt sales. We use the washroom. We better buy something. And by the way, if we walk into a shop that lets us use the restroom, chances are we're going to buy somewhere in there. Once again, out of guilt sales or out of impulse. And I'm not saying every shop should have public restrooms, but even doing something like this shop did. Right there's a little sign on their door. There's another sign over there on the left. And by the way, you know what that sign says? On the left says, your husband called. He said to buy anything you want. But on that right one that's on the door is this. So rather than say no, tell me where I can go. And that is, so don't send us away, be helpful. And when you're helpful, you're going to get more sales. And here's that other sign. I just had to show you that. I thought that was really cute, really clever. Number 4, this is window displays. This is so important in pulling us in your doors. Now, remember, even as we open up our economies, you may say masks are required in our store. So we're going to make a decision. We're not just going to go in to see what's in there. We're going to make a decision on whether it's worth going in there and whether we can social distance over the next few months. And we don't know how long this is going to go on, but these window displays are more important than ever. I mean, I think I saw this in a shop and it was right around the holidays. It was phenomenal. One word to merchants: don't use blackout film on your windows. We do that so the UV rays don't ruin stuff. They now have new UV film that's transparent and will still cut the UV rays by 90%. Because when you do blackout slides, when you do blackout film on your windows, it makes it look like a mirror. We don't know whether you're open or closed or what you have to sell. And so there you go. There's some ideas for you on that. Look for that UV reduction film. And then, but these are, I could have used Bruce County ones, but I'm using ones because I haven't been there for a couple of years. But these are all small towns. Now, this was more like October for Halloween, that type of year. But once again, look at the window displays. They're very, very attractive, and they change like every month or every other month. This is in Western New York in a town called Geneseo. And by the way, yellow pulls the eye. So when you do your window displays, think about yellow. Look at that. It just grabs your eye. Yellow is really great that way. That they just the window displays are exceptional. And this is going to pull people in your door. What it says, it's worth masking up and going in because it looks so attractive from the window displays. So these are all just examples you can emulate. And by the way, with this workshop, there's a handout that's got all these slides on it for you. So you see, I want to copy that one. I love this with a little wagon there. And this is done in the fall. There's no reason why what you do in the summer, you can't do in the fall and winter. I mean, look at that. And once again, those yellow sunflowers just pop at you. And then you should always change window displays 8 times a year, and it maybe even once a month. It keeps people looking at you. So you aren't a been there, done that, retailer. It's so important. And then, here's examples. This one here is a little bit reflective on it, but there are some good displays that I can't really see. It's missing a blade sign, but once we walk inside, we go, oh my gosh, this is awesome. And so having those clear windows will let us see beyond what's just in your window displays. Now, you've gotten a couple that, and Tori was really great and send me this one. I love, this is the before of bottled up the craft winemaking. Before, after. I got to tell you, when I saw this one, I went, yeah, it looks okay. We got kind of a curtain there and, we've got a temporary sign out there. But when I saw this, it looks modern. It looks upscale. I've got wine. You've got lights right up in the windows. I mean, I just went, wow. Now it's still missing a blade sign, which could be like where the power meter is, just, slightly above that. But right there made all the difference in the world. I would also add decorative open signs. It's really important to let people know you're open, because for the last year, we never knew whether you're open sometimes, not open at all. And, and so adding signs like this, they don't always have to be the neon ones, but come in, we're open is an invitation. The next thing you could do is extend window displays to exterior spaces. And I've done this and talked about this in Bruce County a lot. Once again, I'm going to show examples from other places, but look at that. I mean, once again, this was in the fall. But extending window displays to exterior spaces is really important. Next to blade signs, this is the most important thing you could do. Because when we see you setting things outside, and you can even do this in the winter, I get the whole snow removal. But this is something you do it each day. So once you open, if they do snow removal in the morning, then you bring out temporary displays. The merchant you see here does this. This takes probably half an hour, and it gets a lot of attention when the merchant is out there putting those things out there. And every day it's a little bit different. And so doing this is incredibly important. And we've seen, I love this little tiny restaurant in a town of less than 1,000 people. And once again, it was in the fall, but I love they painted the building, the kind of the aqua color, and they have the pink little shutters and the corn stalks. It just tells you that you can do this 12 months of the year. And I think it's just an excellent thing that you could do. Your little shops do this. Notice they did a chalkboard on the right that says soup of the week, and it wasn't there. They were closed the day I was there, but there's also a chalkboard next to the door. So they can put your specials out there. And so that's really a great thing to do. Merchants should always have 60 to 90 centimeters out from the facade to extend window displays to exterior spaces. Once again, I'm going back to Canmore in Alberta, where the merchant does this. The merchant puts this out every single day, that right picture there. And in both these photos, as a matter of fact. But if you go up and down the sidewalks in Canmore, even their bike shops, they hang their bikes on the front of the buildings like that and have them at an angle. I mean, how awesome is that? This is what you do. It just makes your downtown look alive and successful. I mean, even in this case, there's a little chalkboard there. Look what they did with the bikes. Even here, it's a furniture store that sells kitchen goods. They even put a whole placemat settings and everything out there. And then at night, they put it all inside. And so these are the things you could do. Remember, people are going to be coming back. They're visiting your residence. We want your residents to go into your downtowns, and your downtowns need to be the showcase. Things like this. I think that's outstanding. Even clothing stores, the last thing I want is clothes racks, but that's gorgeous. It's just a teaser of what you have to offer. And by the way, if you don't put it in your display window, you wouldn't put it outside. So like folding tables, would you put a folding table pile with stuff in your display window? Of course not. Then you don't put it outside unless you're doing like a garage sale weekend. You would never put this clothes rack in your window, so you don't put it outside, unless you're having a special sale, a garage sale weekend for your whole downtown, which could be kind of fun. But these are extensions of window displays to exterior spaces. And I would even encourage you to get air curtains. An air curtain is something you put inside the front door, because when your door is open, it's even more welcoming. And by the way, it's a less touch point. We don't have to hold that handle that dozens of people have touched before you. That's one of those, now we're freaked out about, can we touch anything? And so in this case, this is in Grass Valley, California, which is at the base of the Sierra Nevadas. I took this in January. And there is an air curtain in that door. So it blows heat down. It keeps the heat inside and the cold outside. And by the way, all the plants you see there are silk. So how cool is that? It's something you could do to be more welcoming and to get people through this first stages of, do I want to go in there? Is it worth opening the door? Is it already open? Number 6. This is facade beautification. This is benches, pots, and cafe dining. This combined with extending window displays really make you a showcase downtown. I love this. This is another one Tori sent me of the classy lady in Mildmay. This is before, this is after. Incredibly different. I don't see all the concrete anymore. It's the gray, the black, the white and black. It looks very modern. And by the way, those dark colors, notice the flowers, they just pop. It just pulls you there. The white, the red. If you had yellow, it'd be even better. But look at that. Think about this. These are impulse sales. This is the Etsy style shops people are looking for, but they're going to judge you by that first impression. And I'm telling you, that second impression, the picture on the right, is heads and shoulders above where it was before. Think about this. When people look to buy a house, 87% of prospective buyers will just drive by and they will determine whether or not the home is worth seeing inside. 87% are judging, even the home they might live into, they're judging by curb appeal. Well, you know what? That 87% applies to small businesses as well. I mean, why do we landscape our front yards and put all those pots and benches and chairs out in our front porch? Why would this homeowner go to this? Because it makes their home feel welcoming. It increases the perceived value of their home. It's the same with your shops. It all applies to you, retail shops, restaurants, B&Bs, lodging facilities. I mean, look at this B&B. Curb appeal is everything. And look at this. 70% of first-time sales can come from curb appeal. 70%. You know what? We all travel. All of you watching this, we all travel. Have you ever said these words? That looks like a nice place to eat. We do. We judge the book by the cover. That's what we do. And you know, it's, and then we'll go to TripAdvisor and make sure that we're making the right choice, or Yelp or whatever. But 70% of first-time sales come from curb appeal. That's why I'm harping on this so much with these. I mean, these little benches, you can buy these benches at hometown hardware stores. I think Canadian Tire sells similar benches. And we don't have to have every business have the same kind of bench. It should fit their personality. But I'd love to see these in front of your stores and flanked with pots. And once again, just think of your store like a front porch. That's why I say put the benches against the facade with window displays out there, and it should just line your whole street. You know, every downtown business should have benches flanked with pots or outdoor seating. You know, a couple of examples. You know, here's one right here. They've got two benches, the big pot on one side, the other side has another pot. I mean, how great is that? So these are just some examples of beautifications outside of retail shops. You know, how welcoming is your shops? You know, and I just, you know, if you ever want to do a case history, go to Niagara on the Lake, or even heck, head down to St. Jacobs. You know, I mean, they really get this. And there's no reason why you and your merchants shouldn't be doing things like this. It's just an important thing to do, you know. And by the way, the two chairs and the table, they don't even know if anybody will ever sit in those. And by the way, the tables and the chairs are all for sale. You can buy them, but it just makes the shop welcoming. So doing these kinds of things in your downtown is so important. In extending window displays, and then doing decorative in-store window displays. You know, here you go. This is a florist. Once again, it's the combination. It'd be great if there's a bench on the left and a bench on the right, and another pot on each side of those. But that's how great this is. And in this case, this is an optical store. You say, well, why? They don't do outdoor cafe dining. But it just gives people, if, for instance, if during COVID, you're saying we only allow so many people in the store, it gives them a place to sit while they wait their turn. But even if nobody ever sits at that table and chairs, it just, number one, it tells me you're in business. Number two, it tells me you're open because it's out there. And number three, it makes you look inviting. And so doing this is so important, whether it is a restaurant or a little cafe or a coffee shop. All of these examples you can emulate, and it doesn't cost a lot of money, you know. And these I took in Western New York State in November, you know. So there's just no reason, no excuse why you can't do this in the winter. You just move those things inside at the end of the day for snow removal at night or early the next morning. You could even create a buying co-op for pots, planters, every meter or so, all the way down your street. That's what they did in Fredericksburg, Texas. And I've talked about this a lot, where they just went to all their merchants and they just said, would you donate some money? Then they went over to Wholesale Nursery and they just bought up pots. They just said, we'll take anything. And in their case, they were 21 inches. So I don't know how many centimeters that is, 21 inches or bigger. And then what they said, if it has a hairline crack, not a problem. Is have a chip out it. They got these things for pennies on the dollar. Then they just lined them up down the street. They had youth organizations. They paid the youth organizations to put gravel at the bottom, some landscape fabric, and fill them full of topsoil because they brought their youth into it. There's no vandalism. Youth protect things they take ownership of. And they went to the merchants. They put them on a side block and said, go ahead and grab the pots you want, put them in front of your stores. And they just lined all the merchants with them. And it made a huge difference. There were some pots left over. So this merchant did a whole grouping of them. But just to give you what this means, look at this. Here you've got the blade sign, the art gallery. It's easy to read, a perfect sign. It's got beautification there. It also has not a chalkboard, but it's got a sign right next to the door. So the blade sign pulls you in, and then you see that little sign that shows you that maybe their hours or what they have to sell. Then you've got the beautification there, and notice the doors open. There's an air curtain in there. And so once again, I just got to put this in front of you. In one example, this is a town of Neenah, Wisconsin, population about 7,500. Oh, heck, it's probably about 10,000 now. But this is before. Notice the city has done the curbside beautification. If you look down the street, you see signs, you can see trees and stuff, and even in the foreground on the left side. But the facade side is the merchants downtown. Before, I'm having trouble hearing. After. I have Siri trying to talk to me now. And so here you go. Before and after. Guess what? Before, after, retail sales went up 33%, a third, just by doing that. This is the power of making a showcase in your downtown. In St. Albert, Alberta, this is the Thomas Coffee House, and their whole brand is gardening. And they said, if we're going to talk the talk, we better walk the walk. And so in this case, Thomas Coffee House, he actually changed the name. So it's the same owner, but I'm going to show you this is before, this is after. Once again, before, notice the windows up top and everything, and those after. You know what the mayor told me? The mayor said, Roger, I can't even get a seat in there. You know what the owner said? His sales went up 400% just doing that. That's how important this is. So outdoor cafe dining is huge, even in the winter. People have been doing this all this last winter in Toronto, I imagine they're doing it in Collingwood, in places where they're skiing. They're out there with propane heaters. I've worked in many Whistler Resort and places where we actually had people in the middle of the winter out there, as long as they had an umbrella to keep snow off their food, and they just wear their ski gear, and they loved it. They'd have like a propane heater there. I mean, this whole thing is big, particularly in the summer season. So these are ideas of what you can do. Over in Barrie, we ended up with 14 restaurants on Dunlop Street where their sidewalks are too narrow, so they allowed pedestrians to walk around. This is at the British Arms. Here it is. I took this early in the morning before they were open, but you can see how the pedestrians route around it. I mean, how cool is that? And they do that in Wolfville, Nova Scotia, and many, right in Halifax, where there's winter, and they will do this, except during the winter months. They'll do it all spring, summer, and fall. So this is the importance of outdoor cafe dining. It's, people want to be outdoors now, because they think it's safer, and they've gotten used to it. And so these are the things they're looking for. In this example you see coming up on your screen, I thought was great. There's just 2 tables and 4 chairs. It's an ice cream shop. And the merchant said the second they see people eating ice cream, they will instantly be a line coming out the door, people waiting to see ice cream. And sometimes they'll give kids free ice cream and tell them sit in those chairs, because instantly it starts pulling people in and for buying ice cream. So this is just the outdoors you need to bring to life. particularly on your side streets. I know some of your downtowns are like a provincial highway, but if you can do it down your side streets or at least create some kind of barrier so we don't have it with semi trucks and dump trucks coming by. But this is really, really, really big. And once again, Tori sent me this from the Rosina Restaurante Rosina, which I believe is in Saugeen Shores. And I mean, before, after, I mean, that's just awesome. I think that's just awesome. This is the power of curb appeal. Here's another one in Saul Beach, Luscious, a bakery and stuff. I mean, look at this, look at before and after, huge difference. Now, I would love to see them actually come out like a meter, 2 meters, might lose a few parking spaces and actually create a little fenced in area with outdoor dining and umbrellas during the summer. Now, this is taken during the winter, of course, but what a huge difference. And number 7, awnings. If you do awnings with window displays and beautification and benches, 2 exterior spaces. I mean, I showed this earlier for their window displays, but look at what the awning does. Awnings are big, and they're really in style right now, and they will be for a long time. Now some of you where you say, well, yeah, but when we get heavy snows and things, well, I'm telling you where these are at. This is in Western New York State where they have the same weather you have. And so, I mean, here's one. This is Kesta Lasagna, and see the awning there. What's cool about this awning is it actually retracts. And so there it is extended and there it is retracted. And so that's pretty cool. So if they get heavy winds or anything, they can just bring them in. Some of them you can manually bring in. But once again, it just adds appeal to you. When it's raining and when you're not, we're still coming downtown because we can get out of the rain with your awnings. I think here's a couple more good examples that you can see. This was in Durant, Oklahoma, where I recently was, and for everybody, see these awnings on the right side here that are flat. Those buildings look awful, but look down to the left where you see those awnings. It looks more upscale. It looks, unfortunately, they have signs above the awnings, which you can only see when you're down the street or across the street. But once again, compared to the ones on the right, doesn't really pull you in. So these are just, there's great, there's great, there's great, and there's dated, and there's really dated. I mean, that's how important. And then look at that. Isn't that awesome? It wraps all the way around this Mexican restaurant. The other thing you can do is add white string lights below your awnings. Once again, just to pull people in, like they did here in El Dorado. This is a population of 20,000. But what they did there, they just did those string lights underneath the awnings out there. And it just adds more. Nowadays, these are LED lights. They take hardly any power. Some of them are even battery powered. So if you don't have an outlet out there, they have a little battery box they run, and so these are all great ways of taking your awnings and making them bright, just inviting people in, particularly when it becomes dusk, it still adds that warm light to bring people in. So this is just showing you some examples. Now, number 8 is how do we get people's attention? And I'm a big fan of these flags, like you see here. It says, what's it say? It's, let's see. I can't even read it. It says hours. I can't even quite read it, but it's flowers. That's what it says. Duh. But you can have these. You can buy these on Amazon. There's whirligigs, other elements that just move in the wind that you can do. They just get attention. So these are things just to bring your downtown so it looks alive. Add those colorful flags, those types of things. And I think that's going to be really important, particularly coming out of COVID. These actually spin around. It's a still photograph, but they actually spin around in the wind. I mean, this is a place I was recently at, but just that big balloon over on the right sure got my attention. If it wasn't there, I wouldn't even known about the place because it didn't have a ton of curb appeal. And so that's just the things that you can do. Now, this one is not right smack in the middle of a downtown, but use bright colors when you can. You know, a lot of your retail shops have those aluminum frames that were there, put there in the 60s and 70s. I would even go so far as to paint those. I mean, look at this little row of shops. The one on the left, they use a beautiful turquoise, you know, or aqua color. The ones in the middle, they used yellow. The one on the right, they used red. I mean, it just adds color. So even paint those 1970s aluminum frames. You know, I doing shit. These chairs right here are actually vinyl, but they come in, or plastic, and they come in all these different colors. It's all about adding color. It's all about adding movement. You know, particularly in the winter when we don't have as much beautification going, adding these things can just add so much appeal and pull people's attention. And number 9, let's talk about lighting for a little bit. And this is lining inside your windows with lighting, not just the awnings. So I think this is great. And these are all just white lights, so they can work year round. And make sure you always use warm light. That's 2700K. When you look at lights, they say 5000K. That's like you'd see in the middle of a grocery store. It's too bright. You want to use warm light. So always look for this when you light up your window displays. You know, this is back in Durant, Oklahoma. And this is the Opera House coffee shop. It used to be an opera house, but you can see how they did the lights. And in their case, I love these lights, and they're all LED. Notice they're kind of that soft, warm light. But even at night, some of your shops I know aren't going to be open after 6, but people are strolling. I have seen it in Bruce County where people are strolling your streets after you're closed. But even then, doing night lighting is really important. You can see here, this is the one where they had painted the frames red, you know, and of course there's Boutique 80 there, and they even used red lighting in there. You know, but look at these shops, even at night. I walk downtown, they're downtown at night, and they did such a good job of lighting it up. It made me want to come back during the day. So even if you're closed, you should still be selling. And I think they did a great job. And nowadays with LED lighting, this doesn't need to cost you very, very little in the way of money. The lights are not that cheap, but once you put them in, they're going to last for, you know, 30,000 hours, and it's not going to really increase your electric bill. I mean, look at this. This is a place I showed you with the awnings, but look at it at night. That really looks great. And that's the way it's lit up. So if we're walking your downtowns at night and your retail shops are closed, this is an invitation to come back during the day. The other thing you can do as a community is line your retail roof lines around your windows with LED rope lighting. Once again, this is Durant, Oklahoma. I took this at night. You can see some of those shops I just showed you there, but then they ran the LED lights along the rooftops. I thought that was just really cool idea. And so the last one of these, operating hours. I'm going to keep pounding on this one. And once again, this is where that came from. And so what's really important about this is start it on Fridays and Saturdays during your peak season. And by the way, one business by themselves can't do it alone. I mean, if only one business was open in a mall after 6 o'clock, would you go to the mall? No, you'd go there when they were all open, you know, if you could, but you might be at work during the day. And so start on the weekends, because when I see signs like this, it says, you know, Tuesday through Friday, we're open till 6, Saturday, we're only open till 5. Really? Sunday, Monday, we're closed. And I get the Sunday, Monday, we're closed. I understand that. I would have it be consistent. But this is what I would do. I'd rather have you open later, like at 11 till 9. You still get the lunch traffic and you get the after hours traffic. And do this for like a year. It's going to take a while for your local residents to understand that you're always open. Then add Thursday, then add Wednesday, and slowly over years, you'll do it. You know, and it'll take a while. Don't say, I tried it for 2 weeks and it didn't work. It takes a while to get people educated that you are actually open after working on weekends. You know, and I saw too many of these. Once again, I'm not picking on anybody in Bruce County, but I saw an awful lot of these where Thursday through Sunday, 8 to 4. Really? And And then you wonder why they don't last. Now, in this case, this is a bakery, and I could understand a bakery just being open in the morning and through lunch hour. So I don't want to really, I could understand that for them. But I've seen too many retail shops that end up being hobby businesses where they don't really care if they make any money or not. And so they're just open when they feel like it. And that's a danger for downtowns. So work to be open 6 days a week. You might be consistently closed on a Monday. On a Sunday, by the way, is the one day you could probably close early. And so, and make it fairly consistent. This one here I thought was really confusing. Monday and Tuesday, we're open from 6:30 to 3. And then we have brunch from 8 to 3 and dinner we're closed. But on Wednesday and Sunday, we have coffee. There's no way I could remember all that. So just do a consistent set of hours that we can get used to. And we'll try to get there when you're open, if you're open after working on weekends. And then there you go. You need 2/3 of the businesses to do this to really make it work. And generally the last third will come along because everybody else is doing it. So in the Destination Development Association, we have a library that's got videos. Business to Bruce belongs to this. And if you say, hey, Business to Bruce, could you stream this for us? This is not the 7 things I showed you. It's another 7 things you could do. It might include 1 or 2, but it even goes in further depth. And there's a second one. This is all geared specifically to retail shops. And the second one is really about marketing. And I'm going to give you a couple of those, but not too many of them. These would be worth seeing. They all stream. I call the Destination Development Association video library Netflix for communities. And so there are videos to go in depth more on some of these things I've told you. There's one just on signage. There's one on beautification that go way into more depth than I can here in a couple of hours. And finally, let's get to our last chapter. So we talked about the trends, and how the second one I talked about tying into those trends, like being open later and beautification and the Etsy style shops. Well, now let's talk about marketing must do. And for all of you, there's a famous saying out there that goes, I know that half my advertising dollars are wasted. The problem is I don't know which half. So I want to tell you how you should market whatever your budget is. This is how you should allocate your marketing money. And we have graphics and messaging. You need photography, even retail shops, restaurants, lodging facilities, B&Bs, you name it. Photography is absolutely critical. Videography, copywriting. This is all content. Then there's the digital amount of marketing, which is your website. Content generation for your website, doing updates. Your website should change, by the way, every month, if not every 2 weeks. An e-newsletter, a blog or a vlog, video blog. Doing influencer marketing, social media, Instagram, YouTube. I'm going to touch on these just a little bit in a minute here. Doing public relations, having a press room on your website, or even just say, if you want to get in touch with us, here's how you do it. Then there's advertising. This is all marketing, print, which is, anything printed, brochures. It could be advertising in print publications, broadcasts is television and radio, outdoors, billboards and signage. Digital would be social media, your website, all those things you saw up there, but advertising, not just having a website, actually advertising in social media channels. Then there's collateral. These are printed brochures. Every community should do the very best of Southampton or the very best of, and promote your top activities, your top eateries. And there's a whole video just on that, an activities guide, which, by the way, Bruce does for the whole, Explore the Bruce does for the whole county. And it's one of the best in Canada. And then distributing your brochure specifically to your business. And then there's discretionary spending, which might be trade shows, miscellaneous. And by the way, notice on Pinterest, I had a little asterisk there. And if you're like a quilt shop, or you're like an art shop, or you're, an aquarium store, a pet store, things, that's hobbyist. Pinterest is really where you should be in social media. So now, how do you allocate that? About 25% of your marketing costs should be getting the content ready, then 40% will be on actually putting it together. 40% of your marketing budget should be digital. All of those things you see listed there. And then when I get to the next one here, we've got advertising should be about 15% of your budget. And it's all of those things. I think collateral material, printed materials will be like 10%. And then discretionary might be 5%, and maybe trade shows, other things you're going to do like fairs and things. That is how you should be allocating your marketing budget. And you got a little bit of flex room, but I've been to many places where you spend 80% on a brochure and they wonder why their sales are not going up. Or they will spend a whole ton of money on advertising, but they don't have the digital close the sale. And let me do this. This is with like if you only had $10,000 a year, which would be less than $1,000 a month, you might have a $5,000 a year budget. It doesn't matter. But I'm just going to give you a rough breakdown. So if this is how it might be spent, there's your digital costs right there. Let me get down to the next one. 15% advertising. Obviously, in 10,000, it's easy to figure out. That's good math for people like me. And when we get down to collateral, maybe $1,000 a year, which would be a simple brochure, those types of things. And maybe we have 500 for something that just comes up. We want to do a flyer or we want to do something else and get it out there at a fair or something. And so this here, you can see roughly how it breaks down. And so you might even do a couple campaigns. And I have a whole video that you could watch on this, but this is for somebody who had $12,250 a year. But the one thing I wanted to show, if you were to break down all of that first collateral, that might be, there you go. This is all content, your photography, videography, production costs, copywriting, working with influencers. And I'm going to touch on that too. So what I'd like you to do sometime, and once again, if you want, you could have Tori stream this to everybody. But I just did this workshop. It's developing effective marketing planning. Even though it's geared more towards tourism organizations, there's a lot you could get out of it as a small business or as a local business. And if you already belong to that, some of the communities already belong to the DDA in Bruce County. So if you have that, this would be a good one for everybody to see. Even though it's geared more to community, it would still apply to you as small businesses. So that's number one. Spend your marketing dollars wisely and make sure you prorate them like you just saw there. Google My Business is something that every business should do, and it doesn't cost a thing. It's free. And let me show you this. Use Google My Business. And by the way, you could do this for trails. So it doesn't have to just be your natural attractions. So you can do it in that regard. So let me do this. What I did is I went into Google, and by the way, Google commands almost 90% of all searches. I typed in RV parks, Bruce Peninsula, Ontario, and then I end up with this list right here. Okay, this is what Google does, and it didn't cost these businesses a dime to be on this list. They just are. And if Google doesn't know, it takes everything it can off your website and things it can finally put together some algorithms to create this list. So in this case, I said, okay, I just picked one out of the blue, Huron Point Campground. And so I thought, okay, let's go to Huron Point Campground. I clicked on it and it gave me the screen. It pulled up this whole thing. So here it is right there. And it pulled up this whole thing. Now, what I get out of this, you could do this on your own. So let me zoom in on this. So here it is. So here we are, Huron Point Campground. Number one, it will link to your website. And you can go in and make sure this is linking to your website or provides directions. Are the directions correct? You can change all this for free. And then it's got write a review. Google reviews, in tourism, I always talked about TripAdvisor reviews. The most important reviews you can get now is Google. Now, some of you may hate Google, But I'm telling you, they rule the world when it comes to digital. I'm sorry to say that, but it is a true fact. You got to be in bed with Google. This doesn't cost anything to do. And so here we go. There's a review summary, and you can see there's some 44 reviews there. They have an average of 3.9. Most of them are really good, excellent. There are a few tough ones, but then below that, they'll actually give you highlights of more recent ones. You know, it provides your address, your phone number, where you're at, the province you're in. And look at this. It says, suggest and edit. Do you own this business? This means Huron RV Park or Huron Point Campground has not even claimed this listing. You need to do this. And what you do is say, yes, I own this business. Usually what Google do is snail mail you or find some way to verify that it is, in fact, you that owns Huron Point Campground. And because you can control what you put on here. And then it's got know this place, share the latest info. You could do this. And it says our accommodations feature seasonal trailer sites and cottage rentals. See some of our featured cottage below, and it does go on. So you might have gotten this from your home site, you know, or from your home page. It may have found that there and put it there for you, you know, and then so it keeps going on. Photos, you can add your own photos. Otherwise, it's going to take user photos, or it'll find them on your website. You know, and so I think it's really important to do this. And by the way, even on your iPhone or your Samsung device, or is BlackBerry still out there? You know, it'll give you this. Look at this: directions, call, save, website. You can control this. It costs nothing to do. It does take a little bit of time. So claim your business and update it once a month. You could even have somebody in your business part-time or when they're off hours, just go maintain it. See what people are saying about you, because I'm going to get into that in a minute. And if you have questions, you can go to google.com business, you know, where they do all of this, and they've got it there for you. And I want to show you this little video that Google put together. They've been doing this internationally, promoting this. So take a look at this.
All we do is hand you the bag. Simple, done.
It smells so good.
Big thanks to you guys at home who are here right now.
We adapt and we change.
I mean, you just figure it out.
We'll do as we do as safely as we can. I got a new job.
Open up the door and I walk right in the house.
We've just been finding a way to keep on pushing.
We're living day at a time, baby.
This is so important as we come out of COVID. We need to know when you're open, if you're open, what your hours are, what your rules are. And you can do this with Google My Business. You know, Google wants to have every single business in Bruce County be in charge of what you say out there. You got to do this. If there was one thing that you would do, I would do that. Own your business on Google, whether you like Google or not. Then the third thing I would do is work on your peer reviews. This is another important aspect, is what people say about you. And let me give you some examples. So in this case, I picked on Tobamori Brewing Company. I just picked them out of the blue. It looks great. And there's their sidebar. They got some great photography. And once again, you know, we've got website direction. We've got all the same things. Do you own this business? And when I looked at a ton of businesses in Bruce County, hardly anybody ever owned their business when it came to these Google listings. And so it's all right there for you. And so, and I also, and there are reviews there. You can see they have 813 Google reviews, 4.2 out of 5. That's really good. So they got some good reviews there. And then I went over to TripAdvisor and I saw that I typed in restaurants in Bruce County, or Bruce Peninsula, excuse me. And they actually did. I was pleased that TripAdvisor knew the Bruce Peninsula rather than a county, because most people don't look for counties, but they actually knew it. And I could see Tobermory Brewing Company was number 2 on the list. I could see it has 601 reviews, and it looks pretty good. And by the way, if I go back to Google, I can click on the images, and this is back in Google, not TripAdvisor, but there they all are. And it looks fabulous. It looks really great. The pictures were almost enough to close the sale. That's why I said in the previous one about how to spend your marketing, make sure photography and your writing is part of that. But one thing I want to talk about is responding to your reviews, particularly the less than stellar ones. It shows you care what people think. And by the way, you should have these reviews also on your website. There are widgets for Wix, WordPress, Weebly. If you have any of those websites, you can get little widgets that'll put the Google reviews and the TripAdvisor reviews right on your website. So we don't leave your website, go over to Google and see what people are saying about you. We can verify it right on your website, but you need to respond. So in this case, Tobermory Brewing Company, I pulled up TripAdvisor. And by the way, if you notice, they have 425 excellent and very good reviews and only 29 terrible reviews. And everybody's going to get a terrible review. So this is not picking on them at all, because they overwhelmingly, like 10 to 1 have good reviews. Even more than that, it's like 50 to 1. But when somebody does a terrible review, you have to understand that you probably do this too. When we travel, we tend to look at the reviews and we say, ooh, let's look at the bad ones first. And so in their case, here they are. It says worst service ever, 50-50 at this restaurant, long time no diner. And I'm not going to concentrate on these because you know what? Most of these weren't about the food. One of them said skip the steak. But here's the challenge. They never responded. If I was an owner of a restaurant, I'd say, I'm so sorry that our service, worst service ever. I would put, I'm really sorry you had that experience. We had a work shortage. Don't be defensive, but I think it's important for you to respond because it says that you care about what people think of you. And so that's my only criticism. This place has fantastic reviews. I am not putting down Tobermory Brewing Company. I think they're fantastic, but you're always going to have somebody that's disgruntled. And of course, even I've worked with businesses where I will write a review saying, well, this customer should never even be allowed in my restaurant. I would never post it, but at least I feel better and I vented. And so in this case, I would just respond to those, say, I'm really sorry, and just say, we've really worked hard on this. And by the way, a lot of these, happened during COVID. Most of these reviews were just during COVID when everything was in upheaval. And maybe that's what you tell people. Say, we have really, really struggled during this period in 2020. Please come in. Please notice that we have 40 good reviews for every one of these negative reviews. And we want to have 0 negative reviews. Just responding is very important. And once again, don't be defensive. Be apologetic. And notice there's an asterisk there, even if you're right. Now, I want to tell you an experience I recently had. We purchased an RV. Yeah, well, I know we're part of that whole RV thing. We're going to be digital nomads for 6 months coming up here. And so we wanted to install some things in our trailer. So locally, I put mobile RV repair near me. And by the way, once people in Bruce County, they're going to use the words near me. And so when I looked at this, I saw, okay, there's Baker Mobile RV repair right there. And I hired this guy. And when he came to work on our trailer, I went and had a conversation with him. Because if you can see there's only 23 reviews, but notice down there in the terrible, he still has 4.5 stars, which is really good. But you can see the second one down there on the right. It says 2 reviews, critical. And so I'm going to boom this. I'm going to blow this up. Here you go. So right here it says, this business from the office personnel to technicians to the owner are rude and unprofessional. I called to see if they would work with my RV warranty company and to send tech out. They verified that they do work with my company, and I'm not going to go in the whole thing. But here's the response from the owner. LOL. Laugh out loud. We tried to make you happy. Sometimes no matter what you do, you can't please people. You were trying to set my prices for me, and that was not going to happen. You were well informed of the service call and diagnosing fee before we ever sent a tech out. You had no problem paying the tech when he was there. I probably did talk over you a couple of times. That was the only way we could get a word in it. You know what? When I read this, I thought this guy is a real jerk. I told him that's what my first impression was. I mean, you can't do this. You know, he's responding to that person, but you have to understand everybody in the world's going to read that response and they're going to judge you. I mean, you know, and so, and the next one down there below says on Sunday, February 7th, our water heater started leaking. The next day, Dylan was in our RV park on another call and stopped by. We explained our water heater was leaking, blah, blah, blah. And then once again, the owner goes, LOA, take it to the shop and don't call us next time. I wonder, and I told him this, I said, I'll bet you those two responses were worse than the negative reviews. And so I just wanted to make sure, you know, and I saw a couple in Bruce County. I'm not going to make examples, but you cannot be defensive like that. You need to say, I'm so sorry. I tried to explain it to you, and I'm sorry that my explanation did not come through very well. Both of these cases, it was warranty repairs, you know, and you just can't do that. And so that's a word to the wise for you. So let me go to, here we go. And now I'm back to Huron Campground, Huron Point Campground. And so in this case, look at what somebody somebody said, very nice owners, washrooms and showers are really clean, a very quiet and nice place. And here was she even responded to the good review. She goes, hi, Miriam, we're so glad you had a nice time staying with us. Thank you for your feedback and your photos. We pride ourselves on cleanliness and nice, quiet experience. We are very happy to hear it was. Hope to see you again soon. You know what? Just that I went, I love these people. See what I mean? See what I mean? But she also had a couple negative reviews. So here it is, called Norma to inquire about availability, and she was extremely rude on the telephone. She automatically assumed we were a party group and continued to blah, blah, blah. But rather than be negative and blast this person, she says, hi, Lillian, sorry you had a bad experience. We welcome groups, but unfortunately can't accommodate 9 people for one evening during the summer months. So she explained it. She didn't explain why she was rude on the phone, and maybe she was frustrated. Who knows? But the point is she responded, which means she at least cared. And she explained that we can't do groups of more than 9 or that big during the summer months. And so, you know, at the end of the day, I thought if we ever get up there, you know, once the borders are open, I would like to stay here. And why did I make this judgment? Because of her responses and the peer reviews, both the positive and the negative. It doesn't cost anything to do this. Number 4, reach out to influencers or become one. Influencers are Instagram. They're people with blogs and vlogs. And I'm going to show you this. I mean, I even Googled the top 10 travel influencers in Toronto. There's the list right there. You know, and how you can get in touch with them. But if you go down the list, here it is, travel, 15 influencers to follow in Canada, top 70 Canadian travel blogs, websites, and influencers. And what you want to do, top travel influencers on Instagram in Canada. I mean, you know, and so I just thought, man, these influencers are out there everywhere. So you know what? I was just looking for visiting Bruce County, and this is beyond it. Explore the Bruce. And I ran across this little video. Check it out.
We love to explore new places. Our travels bring us around the world and offer many incredible experiences. But there are a few places that keep drawing us back. One of those places is a small town in Ontario that is home to the world's second longest freshwater beach. It's a place to relax, unwind, and come together as a family. That place is the town of Sauble Beach. Beach is about a 3-hour drive north of Toronto. And while most visitors from the big city hit up the famous Facade Beach, those who drive the extra hour north are treated to a much quieter, cleaner, and far more intimate experience. The waters of Sauble Beach are perfect for kids. With sandbars that stretch out far into Lake Huron, it's easy to splash around in the crystal clear waters or while away the hours playing in the golden sand. The town itself is home to surf shops, antique and cottage stores, as well as a good collection of great clothing shops and arcades. It's also the perfect place to stop for some ice cream. If you're looking for a change of scenery, the surrounding area, part of the famous Bruce County, is home to some great attractions like Sauble Falls Provincial Park. We can spend an entire day splashing around in the shallow waters of Sauble Falls and jumping from the rocky outcrops. Sauble Beach is pretty, quaint, and fun. But for us, it's a place to escape, relax, unwind, and enjoy the company of friends, family, and loved ones.
I mean, isn't that awesome? I would get a hold of Wandering Waggers and just say, hey, would you come up to Lion's Head? Would you come up to Tobermory? Would you do one? These are, can you imagine the value of this? And by the way, this is a third-party endorsement. It's somebody else tooting your horn. Where Explore the Bruce, you're tooting your own horn. And Explore the Bruce is fantastic. They do a fantastic job. But this is the kind of influencers you want. You know, so you find a local person. It could be you, and create short videos promoting these experiences. You know, I'd pick a millennial or a Gen Xer, you know. Unfortunately, I would love to do it, but I think you want to gear it younger. And I want to show you one. And this is, and always promote your best ofs like he did with Sauble Beach. But can you imagine somebody did this? So I ran into this gal that lives in Lake Tahoe, Gabriella. And I want to show you what she does. And she, once again, she's not with any tourism organization. She's just a resident there and a photographer. So take a look at this little video.
In this video, I'm going to be sharing 10 awesome things to do in Lake Tahoe in the winter besides skiing. What's up, guys? I'm Gabriella. For those of you who don't know me, I am an outdoor photographer currently living in beautiful Lake Tahoe. I make videos on mostly Lake Tahoe, so if that's something you're interested in, be sure to hit that subscribe button and tap the bell icon if you'd like to be notified when a new video is up. All right, so with that being said, I'm just gonna get straight into the video. Here are 10 awesome things to do in Lake Tahoe in the winter besides skiing. Here we go. Number 1 is paddleboarding. It might sound surprising, but the winter months bring about glassy conditions due to less people and less boats on the lake, making it an ideal time for paddleboarding and kayaking. Number 2 is Chickadee Ridge. Located off Mount Rose Highway, you don't have to hike very far for these friendly chickadees to fly right up to you. Number 3 is Monkey Rock. The hike to Monkey Rock is beautiful any time of year, but the views are extra special with a little bit of snow. Number 4 is snow sledding. 2 places that I would recommend for sledding that also happen to be free are Spooner Junction and right across the street from Emerald Bay. Number 5 is Emerald Bay. Emerald Bay truly looks like a winter wonderland when it's covered in snow. Added bonus, there's a hill for sledding right across the road. Number 6 is ice skating. South Lake Tahoe has Heavenly Village, and if you're in North Lake Tahoe, you can ice skate at North Star, Squaw Valley, or Tahoe City's Winter Sports Park. Number 7 is Sand Harbor. Sand Harbor is one of the busiest beaches in Lake Tahoe during the summer months. But in the winter, the crowds are gone and you will have this beautiful spot all to yourself. Number 8 is Heavenly Village. Heavenly Village in South Lake Tahoe has something for everyone, including shopping, bars, restaurants, and ice skating. And there's lots of fun, cozy Christmas vibes if you visit during the holidays. Number 9 is Cave Rock. Cave Rock is a short hike with stunning 180-degree views over Lake Tahoe. If you're in South Lake Tahoe, definitely add this spot to your list. Number 10 is Hidden Beach. Just north of Sand Harbor is Hidden Beach. Framed by snow-capped mountains, Hidden Beach has rocky alcoves and beautiful turquoise water. This also happens to be one of my favorite beaches on the East Shore. I wanted to throw in one bonus activity, and a great one would be taking a hot springs day trip. The Eastern Sierra is home to numerous hot springs. If you venture about 2 hours south from Lake Tahoe on the 395, you'll find some beautiful hot springs. All right, so those were 10 awesome things to do in Lake Tahoe in the winter. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you plan on doing any of the things that I listed in the video, please let me know in the comments below. And that's all I got for you guys today. So I will see you in the next video.
See, now that there's no reason why you can't do this. And by the way, you would be helping explore the Bruce because they want to hear from you as locals. And by the way, you want to reach out to influencers, particularly in Toronto. I loved the fact that the previous video where they talked about Sabo Beach, it's people in Toronto tooting the horn for you. And that's your major market area. But Gabriella Viola, I think she does a good job. She's a fairly recent new addition to this. She's starting to travel around. But those little things like that Chickadee Ridge where the birds feed out of your hands. I mean, people would drive hours just to do that. You know, and by the way, did it make you want to go there in the winter? Yeah, it made me want to go there in the winter. And guess what? What you have in Bruce County, no offense to Lake Tahoe, I think blows it away. The scenery you have, the water you have, the hills, the national parks, the grotto, everything you have is stunning. This is a good way to get people in your shoulder seasons, the October, Novembers, the Marches, April, May, and people are going to be coming to you. So having these little best of videos, you could do this even as a restaurant owner or anybody. I mean, you could do this. And she had 12,000 views, you know, when I snapped this shot, like almost a month ago, I snapped the shot and she's had like twice that many since then. And so it's just getting your word out there. So who can be an influencer? A lodging property. If you're a lodging property and you say, here's 5 reasons or 10 reasons why you should come to the Bruce Peninsula or explore the Bruce in January, February, March, it's a reason for you to stay at your property. Say, well, stay with us, but give me 10 reasons why I should. So a lodging property could be an influencer. Say, here's why you should visit the area. And then you could close and say, we hope you'll stay with us because you're being helpful. People love it when you're being helpful. It's not just a sales pitch. A local restaurant could do that and say, here's the 10 things to do in Tobermory in the winter months. And by the way, we hope you'll start your day with us and end your day with us at the restaurant. See what I mean? Or you can say, start the day with us and then take out lunch from us in the morning and go out and explore and do these things. A retail shop could do it for particulars. Like if somebody has a craft shop and they could say, we're going to do little educational videos. And I'm going to show you one in a minute here. I mean, a guide service could absolutely do it, talking about the reasons why this is such an exceptional place in Ontario to come and visit. All of these could make you influencers without you just doing a sales pitch. And I would always promote the top 3 experiences, whether you're a restaurant, it doesn't matter who you are. You as consumers doing this would bolster the efforts of Explore the Brews. And by the way, if you watch this video, the top 5 marketing priorities, this goes into that in far more detail than I just did. I mean, everybody in your community should be watching this video. And then number 5 is create a blog and a YouTube channel. And I know that tourism does this, but even you in a restaurant could do this. But I'm going to give you one of a guide service. In the case of Squamish, British Columbia, population about 17,000. One of the things they have is celebrating eagles with Nerdy About Nature. He's a guide service, and he calls himself Nerdy with Nature. And so they talk about this. And if you click on that link, it takes you to this page, and there it is, the critter guide. Bald eagle, see down below there, it's got a video. And I'm just going to play the first couple minutes of this video, and then I'm going to pull out of it. But I wanted to show you, he's not selling his guide service. He's selling his knowledge about eagles, which makes me want to hire him. See what I mean? It's educational to me. It's informative to me. And it makes me want to go to Squamish. And if I go, I want to hire this guy. And he did it without selling himself. So take a look at this.
No way. Check it out. Can you see it over there? It's a bald eagle, or Haliaeetus leucocephalus. And these are some amazing birds. Oh, there goes another one right there. These eagles live all across North America, but they're really common here in Cascadia, with an estimated 70% of their population living between British Columbia and Alaska alone, which is a ton of birds. In fact, the world record for the most of these eagles ever seen in any single location is over 3,700 and happened right here in Squamish, BC, which makes this an amazing place to come check out these beauties in action. So grab your binocs, let's have a look.
And I could go on with this, but I'm going to stop it right there. But in that little video, he said that 70% of the eagle population resides from, British Columbia up to Alaska. But he also said the highest concentration on the planet is in Squamish. Right there, it sets Squamish apart as the place. And he went on for several minutes talking about eagles. He never once sold himself, but I guarantee you, if I go there, then I'm going to want to use him. Because he did a great job with that. So here are the 4 U's of effective marketing. If you provide something useful, he talks about where the eagles are, when to see them, what they eat, all that. And if you make it urgent, oh my gosh, the winter's the best time to see the eagles, or the winter's the best time to feed the chickadees at Chickadee Ridge in Lake Tahoe. And it's unique. Once again, the chickadees, that's totally unique to Lake Tahoe, where they eat right out of your hand. You may have that. And then ultra specific this is about eagle watching. It's not, we have something for everyone. This will close the sale and make you an influencer. People want advice. They want helpful information, and they're looking for your expertise. And then when you give it to them, they're going to hire you. And so you could do this. It doesn't matter with your restaurant. You're not going to sell your restaurant. You're going to sell that you as a restaurant owner want people to come into Bruce County. And if you're a restaurant in Wyerton, you may say, well, here in Wyerton, here's the top 3 things you need to do. And by the way, we hope you'll start this experience with a lunch at our restaurant. See what I mean? People aren't looking for a sales pitch, but when you give them helpful information, they're going to come back to you and say, I want to eat there. That was great. Maybe I'll meet the owner when I'm there, or whoever did that video. And so You could do this as an attorney or an accountant giving advice, 2 minutes, 3 minutes. It doesn't need to be long. You know, you could be an insurance agent and say, here's some things you need to know about insurance. You're not giving away the store. You know, you're just trying to be helpful. And you're not giving them a sales pitch. By being helpful, that is the sales pitch. A retail shop could do this. A guide service could do this. A restaurant could do this. A grocery store could do this with recipes or ideas. You know, pick up these ingredients and here's where we're at. And now let's create something really cool and do a 2 or 3 minute video on making something. You know, it's just how easy you could do it. And look at this. This here is on Instagram, and it's a little teeny little video right there that all she is doing is this is like a secondhand store. So take a look at this. There's no real audio with it. She's just showing this little makeup kit, and she looks like she'd be fun. It's less than 1 minute. And she might do that with all kinds of things in the store. It wasn't a big sales pitch. It was kind of fun what she did. And I mean, that's what you can do. Less than 2 minutes, 1 minute is best. But, you know, it didn't just show the store and say, you need to come to the store. We have all this cool stuff. She showed one item in there. And then she might show other videos of different items and do like one a day. These are things you do. It doesn't cost anything to do this. Then number 6, market to RVers. I am not taking anything away from your hotels. Hotels are where lodging taxes come from. Hotels, Airbnb, Vrbo, your inns, your B&Bs are very, very important. This is about adding another segment to your tourism because it is big. And here is a video you can watch that just talks about that. I'm just going to touch on it for a minute. You know, and that video goes through all of these things you see coming up on your screen right now. And so I'm not going to go into all of this, but this is something that would be really good for you. And these are business opportunities or RV parks if you don't have enough. You know, and just by the numbers, this is just in the US, $114 billion. And that was 2019 before the pandemic. But in 2020, even with a pandemic, they sold nearly 500,000 new ones. And by the way, look at this for 2021, 500,000. But I just got an update yesterday that said in February of 2021, in just the US, they sold 50,000 new RVs of every type in 1 month. It was the biggest month in history. And then, I mean, look at this, 380,000 were towables. These are all US numbers. I'm sure they're mimic the numbers in Canada. And this has been going for 10 years. So don't think it's just a flash in the pan. And once again, you know, consumers across country are reinventing the vacation experience. You know, RV camping tops consumer confidence in U.S. travel plans. And so even publications like VIA, which is AAA, or CAA in Canada, they look at this. This is AAA, and you think they're about auto trips and everything, but they did a huge thing to RVers. I mean, everybody is jumping on the RV bandwagon, from Travel and Leisure Magazine to CAA to AAA. And who should cater to RVers? This is interesting because RVers shop where you shop. So they're not the typical tourist that's going to go to your restaurants and stay in a hotel. They will still come to your restaurants, but they also have kitchen stuff. So it might not be quite as much. But you know what? They go to the grocery store every 4 days. These things generally have a very small refrigerator in them. So they're in your grocery stores every 2 or 3 days. It's, you know, it may not be what you think of as tourism because they shop like locals. Remember, they bring in their house with them. So grocery stores should market RVers. Fuel stops should market RVers. If anybody goes through fuel, it would be them. Hardware stores. I got to tell you, every time I'm on the road, every time I see a Home Hardware or an Ace Hardware, I think I should stop because there's probably something I need there. Guide services. These people are huge on guide services. Restaurants can market to RVers with even takeout gear, or take dessert home with you or whatever. Retail shops that sell RV gear, outfitters, all of these people could market to RVers. And then you, as either, whether it's Explore the Bruce does this, or whether you do it as a couple of communities, you could be an RVer guide to the Bruce Peninsula, or to the, Explore the Bruce, or you could do it just for your area. And all these people could be in there, and they each would buy a page to promote what they do. And then anytime somebody goes to an RV park, they hand them an RVer guide. This is just another way to supplement, coming out of COVID, what you can do. So market to RVers. Number 7, prioritize your social media channels. Sometimes we get so wrapped up in social media posts that aren't really helpful. It's just say, here's what I'm doing, here's what we have, and it's all sales pitch. But let me just prioritize these. Facebook is a way to market to your locals. This is your locals talking to each other, or friends and family talking to each other. Facebook is a great way to promote your tides, or outfitters, or bike shops, beachside restaurants. Also, Facebook is great for marketing to locals. And Instagram is how we tell the world. So Facebook's how we let our locals know what we're doing. And remember, if people are coming to visit friends and family, don't you want the friends and family to visit you? And then Instagram's how we tell the world. And then Pinterest is where you really want to go if you're a hobby shop or a chef, or you do interior design, all of those types of things. YouTube is huge, where you can educate others to show off your expertise. You could be a restaurant that specializes, or a bakery that specializes in baked goods, and you could actually do a video of how to create a certain type of pastry. And you may say, yeah, but if they're going to create it on their own, they won't come in us. Well, then sell the ingredients, and chances are they will come into you, even though they're fascinated by how you make those. Twitter is a great way, particularly local, for special deals. Like, hey, we're having a special right now. Like like where you're at, if you're a food truck, those types of things. And so that's what I would use these, and how I would use them. Then there's TripAdvisor and Google, which aren't really social media. They're more the peer review sites. But this is where you get third-party accolades, photography. This is where people verify that they're making the right choice coming to you. And then your website should be where we get all the details, including bookings and costs. How we can get, maybe it's open table, where we can get a reservation at your restaurant. Your website might show you, here's what the current weather conditions are, those types of things. I think that this is going back to Tobermory, the brewing company and grill. They do a great job on Facebook and on Twitter. They can create these see those little squares there that work on Instagram. They also work on Facebook. Social, here's our seasonal menu. It's in effect. Here's our spring hours. So Facebook, they're telling their locals. Instagram, they're telling the world. And then these are great things they also post on their website. And so Instagram is huge, particularly in tourism, and so there's also a video on that. And then number 8 in our list is create and promote lost leader item. I got to tell you, you'll see companies everywhere. They'll say, we'll get you an iPhone for $1 a month. Well, you know what? They're eating it. They're paying hundreds and hundreds of dollars. But what they're doing is getting customers for life, or for at least 2 years. So that's considered, the iPhone's a lost leader, but what they get is their monthly recurring charge for the next at least 2 years. I've seen this, cell phones, printers do this for printers, ebooks. The 99-cent Big Mac at McDonald's, and they do it. Tropical fish tanks, where pet stores will give away a fish tank, but then of course you have to buy $200 worth of stuff to make it work, and to put the fish in it and all the pumps and gear. See what I mean? But they're getting you started. I mean, you name it, milk and eggs. I mean, you name it, could be lost leaders. You know, a lot of times people will do these, they'll sell a printer for $35. Canon doesn't make any money selling a printer for $35, but they make a lot of money selling inkjet cartridges for the next 2 years. And those inkjet cartridges are expensive, as you know. You know, and once again, there's the aquarium where we'll give you the aquarium and people go, woohoo, let's go get a free aquarium. And they walk out of the store spending $200 buying everything. You know, I mean, in one of the towns we're working at, they did this story walk through town where they told a story and they put pictures in each of the store windows. But Sheffield ice cream or Smithfield ice cream parlor, where they gave an ice cream cone away to any kid under 10 who filled out the story walk passport. They had a little passport and you'd walk around town. I wish I had more time to tell you about that. But for kids, they give you a free ice cream cone. I think that is so cool. You know, but you could do, hey, we're coming out of the pandemic. Dessert is on us at a restaurant would be a great use for Twitter and for Facebook. You know, even Instagram. And you can do this, as every retailer should be doing this, every grocery store, every guide service. You know, there it is in celebration of 50% of our population getting vaccinated. Dessert is on us. Come on in and have dinner. We'll provide the dessert. You know, those are little things that you could do that social media are great and they could boost your sales instantly. And if you're going to advertise, the one I would probably use is Facebook, because remember, the first reason we're traveling is a visit, friends, and family. So when they come, you want your locals to be on Facebook so they can say, oh, we should take our parents or our whoever, our friends, and go down to this restaurant where they're promoting, you know, dessert is on us or whatever it is. And so this one, I'm not going to go into great detail, but if you go to Facebook, it says, welcome to your ad campaign command center. I think Facebook marketing, Facebook marketplace is a great way for retail. I mean, if you go look at, you know, advertising on Facebook, there's lots of things, but I would go right down to YouTube. But I want to give you an example. My daughter is a incredibly well-known romance author, Claire Kingsley. And she has written dozens of books. She is one of the top romance authors. And you would think that with all the books she's written, by the way, I'm forbidden to read these books. And you know, she's written gazillions of books. They're all on Amazon. But you know where she does her marketing? You know what made her a best-selling author? It was Facebook. It was Facebook groups. It was Facebook because they talk to each other. People that read romance novels talk to each other. She's got tens of thousands of people. I mean, and so you think a best-known author that sells on Amazon, a top-selling author, you would think that she would be all over Amazon advertising. But her medium of choice is Facebook because that's where she can find her audience and grow her audience. And so you don't have to be an author. You can be a grocery store. You could be an outfitter. You could be almost any business and do this, a B&B. And so I would go to YouTube. This is a great video right here, how to create Facebook ads for beginners. This is where you can spend $10, you can spend $100. You don't have to spend thousands to do this. And so that's one of the videos I'd have you watch. And once again, this is a person that does consulting, HubSpot, and he does consulting people, but he's telling you how to do it for beginning. And if you need help, maybe you'll hire him. Once again, he's not selling himself. He's selling a service. You know, here's another one, how to create a Facebook ad for beginners in 2021. So this is very, very recent. He just posted it last fall. And it lasts half an hour and he walks you through step by step. Now he's doing this. Number one, he's got 30,000 views and the other guy just showed you had like 65,000 views. They're also monetizing it by being there, but they're also, it's a good way for them to land business without doing a sales pitch. And so finally, number 10, watch this video, creative ideas to pull customers into shops and eateries. And I did this in last fall. So this was part COVID, but if you go through there's like 20 there's like 23 ideas in there, and I didn't go through all of those. They're all low cost or no cost. I went through a few of them, but you could kind of, if you watch this video, you can kind of skip through them. And by the way, you could join the DDA, and this is not a big sales pitch, for like $20 for the month, and go through and watch all these on your own, after work this weekend. So you can just get a monthly membership for a few bucks and go in there and watch these. They all stream. But this one has also some other ideas for you that'd be really good. And some of them are about COVID, but I would kind of skip through those and go to the ones that are more about things that'll work after COVID and as we come out of this pandemic. And once again, part 2 of that is more about marketing. So at the end of the day, you can do a shoppable e-commerce. And this is in that second video that I just showed you, that it gives you more details than all of these ways to market your businesses. And so, there you go. So in closing, and we're ready for Q&A here in just a second here. Remember, there's no mistakes, only lessons. And so here is to refocusing, reimagining, reinvesting in beautiful, beautiful, stunning Bruce County. And with that, I'm going to turn this back over to Tori and Natalie, and we'll answer as many questions as you like. So Tori and Natalie, it's back to you.
Hey, thanks, Roger. So a few final housekeeping items before I jump into the amazing questions we got. And I always say that, but I mean it again. So the first thing was the last video, creative ways to get people to stop in your restaurant, your eateries and businesses. We've made free to everyone who registered. Tori does have that link, and she will send that out in an email. We also made 3 of those videos. Again, 3 more of those videos free for you as well. I just barely sent that email to Tori. So the first thing is based on using Facebook and other marketing. I wanted to bring up 94 Take the Cake in Okotoks, Alberta, Roger. Do you remember them who went cartooned? They had their local high school videography club do their video, and it's amazing. Many of you have great AV clubs within your school districts. Make sure you reach out to them. They always need a project. They could get credit, and you could get a free video. So if you need to be conscious of a budget, just wanted to mention that. And also
one thing, just to interrupt right there, that story of her little coffee shop in Okotoks is in one of these videos, and her sales just went through the roof. I mean, you have to see it. It's pretty cool. So
it is awesome. Also, just to reiterate and support one thing Roger said, well, I support everything, Roger, but one thing in particular, when he was planning to head to a project in upstate New York in Livingston County, I was helping him by doing a pre-visit marketing assessment. And I found some of the best restaurants and stores I recommended to him on his visit came because a business wrote out on one of the tabs on their page what our must-dos are for the best nightcap, for the best comedy, for the best everything. And so they just were so complimentary to businesses in their area. And so having that third party for the third party recommendation for those businesses really hit me. And I'm like, okay, Roger, you need to go to these restaurants. The last thing is, I was speaking with Tori, and Roger and I are going to have a little Ask Roger Anything session. So if you come up with a question between now and Monday, send them to Tori. She'll send out the instructions. And next week, Roger and I are going to get on camera, and we will spend probably 30 minutes or so just answering your questions. And they don't have to particularly reflect this topic. If you have some other general questions, this is your chance to ask Roger anything. So let's get into Q&A. All right. So first, this was a comment, and this isn't a question, but he wanted to share this. So $750 RT07 grant for social media for Facebook and Instagram. It's a grant, and for instance, when they did it, Facebook reach engagement was over 85,000 with over 17,000 post engagements, and their followers increased by 155%. So this is someone on this presentation who took advantage of this, and this is his real world results. So that just goes to show. Also, there is another 2,500 Main Street digital transformation grant for updating website and more social media campaigns. So make sure you're Googling that for your area. And one other comment before questions. I was told, do tell Roger that we have chickadees in McGregor Park, Seguin Shores, just south of Port Elgin. It's a chickadee carnival at times. So they're not just in, British Columbia. They're also where you are. So let's get into the questions. Many local restaurants and shops don't want to allow people to use their restrooms because of COVID and requirements to clean. Any advice on that?
Yes. And I don't expect every restaurant. I mean, number one, if you say, well, are we really a public restroom and do we have to have disability access and all those things? But what I want you to do is if you don't, rather than say no public restrooms or for customers only, instead say, if you're looking for public restrooms, please go here. Tell us where we could go. Don't just say no, tell us where we could go. And so I totally understand a lot of retail shops, they don't have public restrooms. I mean, they might have one little tiny restroom that's back in a storeroom. And so you don't have to have restrooms, but rather than just say no to people, that's why I said, tell me where I can go. So just put on your door, you can even put, I'm really sorry, we don't have public restrooms, but here's where you'll find them. And so we worked in a couple of communities where they actually put stickers on shops that said, if you need a restroom, come here. But just remember that when you do, if somebody asks you, we've secret shopped more than 2,000 communities, including all of yours. And we've actually gone into places where they'll say, if you need to use our restroom, yes. And they'll put a little sticker on their door for the places that do that. And they find that people, like I said, with McDonald's, that 70% of people bought something because they felt guilty or because they just thought, oh, while we're here, let's get something. They walked by it. If you ever go to a gas station and you buy gas, you notice they're all mini marts now. And if you need to use that restroom, they have you walk right by the candy and the drinks counter, all those things that you get with impulse buys, and they get increased sales from it. So this isn't going to work for everybody. And particularly if you're a restaurant, you might be open, but you're between lunch and dinner and you really, do you need to take care of that? So if you don't have restrooms that you can share, at least don't just slap people in the face and tell them to go away.
Thank you, Roger. Really quickly in response, someone just asked if that 750 RTO7 grant is still available. I did a quick Google and I found a partnership program guidelines for 2020, 2021. So if you Google that, you'll be able to find out the requirements and if you qualify.
And Tori, do you want to add anything to that?
Yeah, certainly. We can do a little more research to see, of course, grants come and go. Lots of things are changing at an ongoing basis. So we certainly will follow up to that and provide those resources in our follow-up email.
Great.
Thank you. So, Roger, what do you recommend for empty storefronts? Dressing them up, put in art displays, and when you talk about updating facades, how to best lure owners to do this when they seem to not be interested?
Okay. If there's an owner with an empty space, they probably don't care. They really don't care. And it's really sad. But what I would do is say, look, what if we paid you $50 a month if you have the money? And what if we create a window box? So what you're going to do is actually create a plywood box that you're going to put inside the window, and you might have LED lights on the top, and then you just put displays in there. So rather than paper fronts of stores, or rather than just have it just be dead space, we always do window box displays. And so sometimes you'll have some public money that could be available for that. Sometimes an owner will do it. But where there's also, I've done workshops on pop-up shops where during holiday stuff, they'll actually rent the first, sorry, feet and inches, but the first 10 feet inside, and then they just put up temporary walls back there, and they just put a temporary shop in the front part. But we believe that just putting in, even if you just did posters inside windows, right up against the window, is better than just having empty space or papered or cardboard or plywood on them. So I always like the window box idea where you can put antiques or whatever you want in there, just something that's decorative. Could be flowers, like one of those restaurant boards that I showed. You might just put dried flowers in there, or something that maybe it's something that's even for sale. It might be 2 or 3 pieces of art in one of those window boxes. Say, if you'd like to buy this art, you could just tell them, go here online or go to this store down the street, 3 doors. So those are ways to do that, to at least, give us the appearance of that we're trying to make downtown attractive. Because when we see empty storefronts that are just bare or are papered up, it makes your town feel unsafe, even though it's not true. It's just the feeling they get. And so that's why I say do that. So that's a really great question. And you're going to have some of those where businesses that were doing fine before COVID just couldn't make it through COVID. And so it's going to be a year or two before we start to fill those back up.
Thank you. To add to that, I came from a small town in New England in Connecticut, and we had a couple of years where a bunch of small family-owned businesses went out. And so what they did was they reached out to the local schools, to the elementary ages, and had a window painting contest, and then had community members come down to vote. And they ended up patronizing the other businesses downtown because it was kind of a make a day of it type of situation. Okay, so for a new business owner in the planning stages of opening a downtown storefront business, is there any advice you would like to provide when they are starting with a blank slate? The most important tips to start with?
Well, the first thing will be a blade sign. And then do facade signs, can be like in your windows. Always make sure that whatever you put on your store makes it really clear what you're about. So for instance, I was working in a town where it was grandma's attic, and what does grandma have in her attic upstairs? And so, but I didn't know whether it was an antique store. Was it secondhand store? It needs to be really clear on your blade sign what you are. Are you antiques? Are you a restaurant? And a lot of times we'll put such and such, and then we put restaurant in little tiny letters. So always put the primary lure, on your blade sign. Make sure you do the blade sign. Then your window displays are going to be number 2. And then outdoor beautification is number 3. And you want outdoor beautification because it says, we're here, we're open. When people see pots with plants in them, they know somebody's taking care of those plants. And in that case, they know you're open. So the big deal is to pull their eye. If I was brand new opening, I would get those flower pots. I would put flowers in them. And I know we're just coming out of winter right now, but what I would do is I would go get helium balloons, and I would do bundles of helium balloons on both sides of your door. And the reason is the balloons kind of move in the breeze and everything. They'll last several days, and it's going to grab attention, and it will pull people in. But I love balloons, and I love the flag banners you can buy. But balloons are really inexpensive, really a great way to pull people's attention. Then do a grand opening, and do something, a giveaway, a lost leader, something to pull people in the door that first time. Because once they come in the door, you've got a customer, hopefully. And so, I think everything's about curb appeal when you open up, but I like the idea of balloons. I like the ideas we're open, and then just dressing up the shop on the exterior, particularly and in your window displays, and make it really obvious what you're about. And I think you'll do really well. And remember, people love these Etsy style shops. It's stuff we can't get on Amazon. The things that we have to touch and feel. And if you're doing that, it's great.
Thank you. As an economic development department, how do we get businesses on board to stay open later? and or increase signage. Do you have any key messaging or the top 3 takeaways we can give to our businesses to help them understand the importance of these?
First of all, as an economic development department, I would actually do a little video and say, hey, if you're coming into Sable Beach and you might do this during the summer months, Sable Beach, all of our business, Sable Beach kind of closes down for the winter months, obviously, but during the summer months, you can say, and by the way, we want to feature in this little 2-minute video 4 of our businesses that are open till 9 o'clock at night. I think you would promote the businesses that are staying open later. It's incentive for them to do it. And just say, and you do it in Wiarton, you could do it in any one of your towns, or all of your towns. You could each do and say, hey, when you're coming into Kincardine, I want to feature, in this little video, we're going to feature 4 shops that are open every Friday and Saturday till 9 o'clock at night. So when you're done playing for the day, you got to come into one of these 4 shops. So let's dig in. And you might walk right into the shop, talk about it for 30 seconds. Then you cut away and do the next shop for 30 seconds. And by the way, this could all be done on an iPhone. It doesn't have to be, it has to be good sound quality, but don't think you have to go out and spend a fortune. I would promote the businesses that are open later, particularly on Fridays and Saturdays during the peak season specifically, and if somebody says, well, hey, I'm going to open it up, say, great, we'll do a new video next week promoting your little business. So start promoting those, and it gives people incentive. But the way you can't regulate when people are open and closed. And I get it for the mom and pop shops that are I got to go home and fix dinner for the kids, and I understand that. There's even a video in the DDA library that talks about how to stay open after 6 p.m. And it takes a little while to do, but there's even a thing called a shared worker program that we detail in that, where you might have somebody that works maybe they work for Business to Bruce or a chamber of commerce or somebody, and you have a couple of people, they work. And then I want somebody to work every Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday from 10 to 2 so I could go to the bank and everything. And that would allow me to stay open later. And another person say, well, I want that person from 2 to 4 to cover me so I could do my merchandising and ordering and everything. And that would allow me to stay open. Or one that says, I do need to go home. I need somebody to cover my store from 4 to 6, and then I'll come back and do 6 to 9. So and that's called a shared worker program, and they just pay per hour, because how do you hire somebody for a few hours a day for a few days a week and keep them? You can't. So this video goes into that, and that's a tough one. At the end of the day, property owners, if you go sign a lease in a mall, the lease will say you will open at 10 a.m. and for every 5 minutes you open late, it's $1,000 penalty. And you will close at 9 o'clock or 10 o'clock whenever the mall closes. And if you go into Eaton Center in Toronto and any of those places, that's what their leases say. It's in their lease agreements. Eventually, it would be great to have your downtown property owners put in their lease agreements that these are the hours you need to be open, with some penalties if you're not. But to start, just start on Fridays and Saturdays during your peak season. Give it some time to work. You could do a shared worker program, but I understand these are Etsy style shops. I said are big, and Etsy style means, we also have a life outside of our retail. And a lot of times Etsy style businesses can't afford to hire workers, but by having a shared worker come in for a few hours, art co-ops do this, where they actually have artists come in for a few hours a week. So somebody might cover for the evening on Monday and a different artist on Tuesday. And so they're already starting to do this. And so there are some ways to do it. It's the toughest of everything I talk to is how do we get people to stay open later? But if you don't, we spend the night where there's things to do after 6 o'clock. Otherwise, we're going to go to Owen Sound. We're going to go to Collingwood. We're going to go somewhere else where they are open. And you don't want to lose that.
Thank you. This is a fantastic question, and I've been sitting here thinking about it since it came in. How can businesses and communities that are off the beaten track and don't get foot traffic ensure they are getting the customers they need? Should they focus on social media, or should they be doing signage on highways or other communities to draw people into their stores?
First of all, they should do signage on the highway. You know what? I'm not a big fan of billboards, but if you've got them, they are an effective way of telling people that you exist. And billboards and signage does get a lot of impressions, because even people that live there that are commuting past you, if they see a post on social media once, they're going to forget it. Usually what it is, it's called the 7-time rule, is when people see something 7 times, they won't forget it. So when they go by a billboard or a sign and they go by it once, twice, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, then they're going to remember you're there. Then when they see a post on social media, then they'll know, oh, I know where that is. I go by it all the time. And so I do think it's important that you have a number of impressions. And that's why when you post on social media, we need to see things, some people say 5 times. I've always said 7 times. Once we see it, you tell them once, you tell them twice, and you tell them again. And the 7 times they're going to remember. And that's best, cheapest done by probably billboards or signage out on the highway. And once again, you're in such a beautiful scenic area. And remember now, if you use billboards or signage, no more than 8 words. So you can't put a bunch of words out there. And by the way, with signage and even billboards that you can see from a great distance, you have 4 seconds. Smaller signs, you have 2 seconds. So we can read it and remember our attention's on the road and stuff. So I always believe if you're kind of out of the downtown area and you're a great shop, then I think that doing highway signage is rule number 1. You got to tell people you exist, particularly your locals, that you exist. I always say you need to break even with your locals, and tourism can be your profit. And so signage is a great way to get your commute traffic and everything to know you exist and that know you're there. So I hope that's helpful.
Well, and Roger, you've also mentioned in previous presentations that they should also talk with local businesses in the downtown district. Some have done discounts that if you bring in your receipt from a restaurant, you get 10% off your purchase or things like that. People like incentives. And why not use some of your neighbors, quote unquote neighbors from the downtown district?
And I think it's important for people to cross-sell each other. When somebody walks into a retail shop, you can say, hey, where are you from? And if they say, well, I'm from here in Port Elgin, then you say, well, that's great. Have you been in before? And they may say, yes, I come in here all the time. And maybe you recognize them. But then you say, well, so-and-so has another great little shop that sometime you should experience. They're a little bit out of town. And I always believe in cross-selling. In Huntsville, Texas, they actually did a cross-selling program many years ago that was fabulous. Museums were cross-selling each other. And so I always think that's good. It's merchants helping merchants. And that will also help, because I know that some of your best merchants in Bruce County are not in the heart of your downtowns. And so I think that's important. It's people helping each other.
Thank you. This is a fun one, Roger. Are you ready?
Sure.
After these insightful suggestions, what is one of the top things you would want to see changed in our downtowns for when you visit Bruce County next? What will you be watching for?
My first thing is curb appeal. My first thing is, I got to tell you that Tara when Karen, I can't remember when there was several years ago, and we were in Port Elgin walking downtown in the middle of the winter. And there was this one shop that had the pine boughs and everything. I took pictures of it, and that place was packed. The merchant was exceptional. I just think curb appeal is absolutely critical in pulling the eye. And that first impression is the last impression. If you think about the most beautiful towns in Ontario, you're going to go to Niagara on the Lake. You might go down to St. Jacobs, which is almost kind of overrun now. But there's Elora. I mean, we worked in many other cities that are doing that. And I think curb appeal is the first thing to say, wow, this looks beautiful. And I'm telling you, when you do, your whole street front looks pretty. And we're not just talking about one pot here, one pot 4 doors down. It slows traffic. It's the best way to slow traffic. One of my biggest problems in Bruce County is I can cruise through most of your towns at way over the speed limit. because a lot of them are like on the highway. And I really think that once we slow down and we start noticing what you have, it's curb appeal. There's nothing can outdo curb appeal to slow people, get their attention, and get them to stop.
Correct.
And by the way, once people get out of their cars, 4 times greater chance of getting them to spend money. 4 times. So things like visitor information should always be in a spending district. We stop, we get out of our car, and while we're out of our car, we might say, let's go into this shop, that shop. I was asked in Bruce County, where should we put our visitor information? Should it be out on the highway? And I always put it in the heart of your spending districts.
Our good friend Vicky from Bruce County.
Hey, hi, Vicky.
She said that it was, and I'm going to butcher this and I apologize, in Port Elgin, Mensch, the retail store that you were referring to with the boughs. It was the night of the community lighting of the tree. So thank you, Vicky, for that reminder.
It was a great shop. And just, I mean, she had all the windows framed with boughs and, and you might think, and everybody else saying, yeah, but we have snow removal and it's the winter and everything. And I'm telling you, that store was packed. As a matter of fact, I was there with Vicky and Karen, and Jordan from our office was there. We walked out of there. We all spent hundreds of dollars because she was open late, number one. Number two, it was beautiful. And there were people downtown and 90% of the retailers were closed. And it was the Christmas lighting. Smart merchant.
Roger, here is your last question. And just a reminder, don't forget to send in your questions. Tori will send an email with all of the links for the videos that Roger referenced and the handout and the posters. Everything will come to you later today. So here's the last one. What are some of your go-to resources, maybe books, publications, news sources, websites, etc., to keep updated with trends and changes in the business and downtown community industry?
So you don't even have to be members of these organizations. There's the International Downtown Association, and I just subscribe to their newsletter, and they're always giving me updates, of what they're doing. And part of it's trying to get us to join or whatever. But even if you're not a member, you can get those. I also get Travel Market Insider, which talks about tourism. And they just do Travel Insider, and like once a week I get those. Another one I do is called ASTA, which is Association of Travel Agents. And they always tell you who's opening cruises, and even if you're not in tourism, we don't work with travel agents, but this is a newsletter that comes out like once every couple of days. And what I do is I try to get e-newsletters and I just scan down them to see what's happening. So I know what's happening. I also subscribe to, like in the US, I subscribe to the CDC, the Centers for Disease Control. They do a daily update on the COVID thing. So I know that. So what I do is I go to trade organizations. So you might go to National Retail Fund, anybody that does a monthly newsletter. It doesn't mean you have to join them, but you just want to, and I like getting those e-newsletters and I just scan down them. You know how I learned about Zoom towns? A friend of mine sent me a note that said, Roger, you got to check into Zoom towns. And then I started getting from Travel and Leisure and some of these where they send out these e-newsletters. And all of a sudden I started seeing Zoom towns show up, and all of a sudden I started digging in. So I like the e-newsletters from trade organizations, and you don't have to be a member to get those. And I think it's a good way to stay up on it. And then I will dig in and I'll ask people questions. And so I think it's always good to be on that. And even though we're not in the travel agency business, but knowing that, hey, such and such cruise lines are going to start going, Disney's going to open this date and everything, at least gets me aware of the industry as a whole. So I know what to tell people that we're working with, like yourselves. In retail, I think there's, you could even subscribe to Main Street America, which is the National Trust for Historic Preservation. But I think Main Street USA would be a good one. Get their newsletter. I think International Downtown. Canada has a downtown association. I'm not sure if they're doing, I spoke at it in Collingwood just a couple of years ago. And I'm not sure if they do a weekly newsletter, but I always love those. And I just scan down it. So at least I got an idea what's going on out there.
Thank you. Tori, do you have any final words for the attendees before we sign off?
There's been so many words and fantastic words. What a great presentation, Roger. I just want to quickly highlight so much of what you've spoken of are resources that we, through our economic development team, can help you and your business implement, whether it's through idea generation, sourcing funds, whether it be through the county, municipal, federal, provincial, other organizations. Reach out to us. That's part of our role, is to help you navigate those areas. And so I'd also like to highlight our Spruce the Bruce program for our Bruce County businesses. If you're located in our downtown core in the community improvement plan area, you could be eligible to receive funding to help with such things such as the blade signs, projecting perpendicular. There's lots of different names, but highly, highly recommend looking into that grant for that, as well as the awnings and facade improvements. So Roger gave some great examples of local businesses who had received funding through our Spruce the Bruce program for such projects. So, and in addition, if you're outside of our downtown CIPs, you're still eligible for our collaborative marketing grant. And I know there was the question about how do I encourage visitors and market to my customers when I'm not in a downtown core and maybe outside of that high traffic area. Well, the collaborative marketing grant can really help you with that. So if you work with minimum of 2 other businesses and one is located in your local downtown core, you develop a really great marketing campaign, an itinerary, where you say maybe you're a restaurant and there's a vineyard down in, the farmland and great B&B around the corner. And the 3 of you come together and create a great marketing package will help pay for that. So lots of opportunities to get involved with community development. And then through the marketing standpoint and understanding your business and how you position yourself through our Business to Bruce program, we have resources for that. So please reach out to us. We're here to help you. And, we've been in it for over a year now. And I'll say this, Roger, our Bruce County businesses have done a fantastic job in pivoting. And so kudos to them for all their hard work. They've done a really great job.
They have. And one other thing I just came up to me is that I didn't mention in all of this, but for like somebody who had a brand new business, you know what works? Snail mail. If you were a brand new business and you had a restaurant, and you sent out a postcard that says we're opening but on the back was a recipe. Remember, it needs to be helpful, not just a sales pitch. It had a great recipe or it had something that's useful on it. People are going to grab that. It's not going to be just junk mail. But I got to tell you that snail mail is actually a great way for your businesses to reach your local audience, more than getting slammed with emails. And so that's something. But I will also say that if you need help with Google My Business, Tori can point you in the right direction, or any of these things. And I don't say this everywhere, but I got to tell you, everything that Bruce County is doing in Spruce the Bruce, in Explore the Bruce, in Business to Bruce, I think are really one of the top-notch programs in all of Canada. And I don't say that lightly and everywhere, but they really, really take to heart every little business and every little town, whether you're Lucknow or Mildmay or towns I didn't mention a whole lot in this presentation. They really do an excellent job. So if you ever have any question on any of this, their team can help. And you can also reach out to us. We're not going to charge you. We're just like them. We want to make sure that you're helping, that you get everything you need. And with that, Tori, I'll let you say goodbye to everyone and all the best to you as we come out and have a fantastic 2021. We're still a few months away, but this is going to be a rip-roaring year. And believe me, people are headed your way.
Yes, they are. Well, thank you again on behalf of Business to Bruce and the County of Bruce to Roger for your great presentation and Natalie for coordinating this with us. Again, we'll get a follow-up email sent with all the resources, recordings, attachments, references, as well as take advantage of the opportunity. If you come up with a question in the next couple days that you're like, ooh, I really wish I would have asked Roger this, send it to me. I'll get it to Roger. They'll do a great follow-up video that will get out to everyone next week. So thank you again so much, everyone, for joining us today. Take care, stay healthy, stay well.